Chapter 26. Blake had to admit, Malfoy is annoying though. But Malfoy still has his own insistence on teasing others. It was like Malfoy had almost never teased or bullied her. Blake thinks it's because she's the weakling. Malfoy usually targets those soul servants who are more powerful, like Longbottom. It seemed that teasing a stronger soul servant could give him a sense of accomplishment. But it is precisely because of his habit. He's always going to get into trouble. I've been beaten a lot this year. Perhaps only an honest man like Longbottom had never hit Malfoy. But even if you get beaten, Malfoy enjoyed it too. Anyway, as a soul servant, except Luo Lin, other soul servants can't kill him. He can commit suicide like crazy. At this time, Luo Lin remembered another thing about Longbottom. He had tried having various soul servants perform multiple fucks. In other words, one soul controls multiple body frames. This kind of excessive behavior places high demands on the soul servant's soul power and sensitivity. Therefore, among the 28 soul servants, only a few soul servants can do more exercises. Longbottom is one of them, and Longbottom can control 3 complete skeletons at the same time. And it is possible to mix these skeletons to make the most accurate movements, such as 6 hands and 6 feet attacking at the same time. Although he is an honest man, but his fighting ability is quite strong. After thinking about this, Luo Lin increasingly felt that Longbottom was a good choice. Even if Longbottom is living in the cat skeleton at this time, he is definitely far superior to Black in terms of combat effectiveness, although Luo Lin most likely has no need for combat. But having a thug like Longbottom by your side will make you feel more at ease. Rowling then explained what Longbottom needed to do. Longbottom understood. No problem, master. If I can get enough soul energy, my speed can reach up to about 200 miles per hour. Then it doesn't need to be so fast. More than 100 miles is enough. Just keep it at about the same speed as Blake. Luo Lin ordered. Longbottom tilted his cat head and glanced at Black, then nodded. Blake was inexplicably unhappy. What's the meaning? She is holding her back. No, she must increase her soul power to catch up with Longbottom, a big fool. The next few days, Luo Lin's dormitory, library, and auditorium are 3 points and 1 line away. Every day I just read, eat, sleep, and do almost nothing else. During this period, we went to Hajina for another afternoon tea. He doesn't need to practice. The system will automatically help him absorb the breath of the undead and increase his level of necromancer. It's just that in places where the aura of the undead is strong, the speed of leveling up will be faster. In places where the aura of the undead is thin, the improvement will naturally be very slow. However, what surprised Luo Lin was that the speed at which the necromancer level was upgraded at Hogwarts was no worse than that in Azkaban. This shows that Hogwarts has no less undead atmosphere than Azkaban. Luo Lin was a little confused about the situation for a while. What causes this? He couldn't quite figure it out, but there are a few guesses. One is that many ghosts have lived in Hogwarts for a long time, which makes the smell of the undead here very strong. The second is that Hogwarts has a very long history. During this period, it is unknown how many high-level wizards died here. Hogwarts did not have a special method to clean up the aura of the undead, which caused all this. These 2 guesses are relatively likely. As for other possibilities, Luo Lin didn't know either. It is possible that there is some kind of secret hidden in Hogwarts, which is why there is a strong aura of the undead here. It can only be said that when he read Harry Potter in his previous life, he only skimmed through it. Don't know many of the details. Otherwise, he might have a more reasonable guess. But it doesn't matter. Luo Lin didn't care why Hogwarts had such a strong aura of the undead. On the contrary, this is a good thing. During his time at Hogwarts, his improvement speed did not slow down. I also learned more knowledge and made a lot of money. This incident made Luo Lin feel a lot happier. Soon. It's already early July. It's time to send notices to the first batch of little wizards. Professor McGonagall prepared the notice early. Let the owl at the post office deliver these notices to the homes of prospective students. It was time for Luo Lin and the others to set off. They need to travel to various places in the UK. Find those young wizards from Muggle families, serve as messengers and bring them notices, answer questions about wizards to their parents, and then take the young wizards to buy the items on the list. Before leaving, Professor McGonagall also called everyone to explain a few words. Probably means, if there are students who don't want to come to Hogwarts, they need to clear the memories of students and insiders. Professor McGonagall has to explain this matter almost every year. Some professors are getting tired of hearing this. Only Luo Lin heard it for the first time. So he now has a very important question. What should I do if the memory cannot be erased? That's right. As a necromancer who plays with souls, Rolin will not erase other people's memories. In other words, he will not erase the memory of living people. If it is a soul or undead, naturally, he can pinch it with his hands. Not to mention erasing memories, he can even weave a very detailed memory. But for living people, his methods didn't work. The other professors naturally used the forgetting spell to forget everything. But now he has not even learned a few of the most basic magics in this world's wizarding system. How could it be possible to forget the spell? No way. Luo Lin had no choice but to raise this question to Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall is also a little numb. This is the first time she has encountered this kind of problem. Former Hogwarts professor. No matter how poor your magic level is, you can basically master the forgetting curse. Looking at Luo Lin, who looked innocent in front of him, Professor McGonagall frowned and had the idea of replacing him. But now we have to leave. Temporary substitutions are definitely not good. After all, the list is drawn by lot, which is the fairest choice. She thought for a while and finally thought of a way. Let's do this, Professor Rasma. Just go and give guidance as usual. If you meet a young wizard who is unwilling to enter the magical world, just remember his name and tell me when you come back, and I will deal with it. This is a relatively safe approach. After all, after so many years, there are almost no young wizards who are unwilling to enter the magical world. On average, there is none every year. There is a high probability that Luo Lin will not be able to meet him. Even if we meet, it will only be one family at most. She can handle it easily. Okay, then I'll bother Professor McGonagall. There are ways to deal with it. Luo Lin was relieved. After saying goodbye to Professor McGonagall, Rowling prepares to head to London. Chapter 27. Return to the dormitory. Rowling took Black and Longbottom with him. I also brought a map of the area around Hogwarts. He wasn't planning on riding the Hogwarts Express this time. I don't plan to use the Flu network in Hogsmeade either. Instead, take Blake and Longbottom directly to London. The main purpose is to test their man capabilities. After all, in the next period of time, the two of them are equivalent to his special mounts. That doesn't seem right, but it is true. And both Black and Longbottom were happy to do so. Especially Blake. Ever since Longbottom came out, Luo Lin found that she was becoming more and more active in doing things. Like this trip to London. Blake couldn't wait to have Rolin on her back. Luo Lin did not refuse. He decided to let Black take him flying for the first half of the journey, and Longbottom would take him for the second half. After he stepped on Blake's back, Blake flapped his bone wings, lifted Luo Lin up, and was soon in midair. Luo Lin could feel the soul power coming from the soles of his feet. This soul power is not huge, but it is still no problem to lift a creature weighing more than 60 kilograms. Blake also looked relaxed. However, Luo Lin discovered another problem at this time. Blake can really lift people up, but there was no way to fix the person on her back. Rolin is fine. He was able to balance himself on Blake's back, but for those other little wizards, this is obviously very difficult. Especially young wizards from Muggle families who have never been exposed to the magical world. They certainly can't adapt to this situation. Luo Lin put this question out. Black, Longbottom, do you have a way to solve this problem? Blake answered quickly. Of course, Master. You only need to spend a little more soul power to immobilize them so that they can sit firmly. Longbottom also spoke at this time. Yes, Master, but this will slow us down a bit. Reducing some speed is not a problem as long as it is safe. Rolin doesn't think much speed is needed. How big is the UK as a whole? Not to mention that he only had to transport people from around London to London. So a little distance. It won't take long at all. Don't worry, Master. It's absolutely safe. Blake assured loudly. Longbottom also nodded his cat skull. That's okay. Let's set off. As soon as Luo Lin finished speaking, Blake couldn't wait to fly towards London. She had seen the map just now and remembered the location clearly. Longbottom stretched out his claws and scratched the ground, and also flew up. A cat bone, a bird bone, and a human wearing a wizard's robe were flying in the sky. The sound of them rising into the sky naturally alarmed some people in Hogwarts. Dumbledore was right in front of the window of the principal's office and saw Rowling flying into the sky. Seeing another cat skeleton, Dumbledore frowned slightly, but soon relaxed. He looked at his back in the sky with an inexplicable expression and murmured, "Should we try to leave that matter to him?" Rowling was unaware of Dumbledore's concern for him. He was now getting used to the feeling of flying as a bird. It can be said that Blake is still very stable. Luo Lin only needs to control his balance, and it is no different from flying in the sky. However, It seemed a bit weird for Rolin to step on Black with such a big body. If Muggles saw it, you'll probably be stunned. An owlbone, not much bigger than a palm, can actually carry an adult on its back and fly? They must think they're dreaming. After flying halfway through the journey, Rolin switched to Longbottom. The bone of the cat possessed by Longbottom is not big, but it is still much larger than that of an owl. Luo Lin did not stand on him, but sat cross-legged on him. After sitting down, Rowling asked Longbottom to use his soul power to immobilize him. He felt a force coming from all around his body, fixing his entire body to the cat frame. He didn't use any magic, just used the body's own strength to resist this fixed force. The result made Luo Lin very satisfied. Even with his adult strength, he was completely unable to resist this fixation. No matter how fast Longbottom flew, his body was firmly fixed on Longbottom. Moreover, the oncoming wind was offset a lot by the soul power, blowing on his face like a breeze. You must know that when flying fast in the air, the resistance of the wind is very great. Without external protection, the wind blowing on the face is as painful as a knife cut. However, soul power can solve this problem very well. Luo Lin could sense the surrounding soul power forming a thin film. This is a very thin membrane. It does not completely prevent the wind from entering, but for winds exceeding a certain intensity, it can also play a very good blocking role. It can be regarded as an ingenious idea of using soul power. Luo Lin became more and more satisfied with his soul servant. The system is still very powerful. Ordinary undead definitely don't have these means, but it only takes a while to study in the Soul Slave module. They can master many incredible methods. Most of these methods rely on soul power, which is a derivative of the soul of the undead. Very similar to magic. As long as the soul's origin is not damaged, soul power will continue to be generated. And it can also be supplemented in other ways. The strength of the soul's power depends on the strength of the soul's origin. People with strong soul origins like Longbottom can sustain the output of soul power for a very long time. Luo Lin asked. Longbottom said that he could maintain this output of soul power for more than 10 hours. If Luo Lin injects enough soul breath into him, this time can be doubled. Blake is much weaker in comparison. She can only maintain continuous soul power output for up to 6 hours. Even with the injection of soul breath, the time will not exceed 10 hours. But whether it is 6 hours or 10 hours, it is enough for Luo Lin. According to Rolin's estimate, the Hogwarts Express only travels at 40 miles an hour. Both Black and Longbottom could easily reach over 100 miles, and even close to 200 miles. The Hogwarts Express takes most of a day to travel from Platform 9 3/4 to Hogsmeade Station. Black and Longbottom only needed about 2 hours. This speed is much faster than traveling by train. There is no problem in sending young wizards from London and surrounding areas to Gringotts. After the test is completed, Rowling sat on Longbottom. He picked up speed again. He arrived in London soon. Chapter 28. Come to London. The landing place chosen by Rolin was an uninhabited corner not far from Diagon Alley. Before landing, he unleashes mass ghosting. Group ghosting is a form of necromancy. It's not that it turns people into ghosts. Instead, it will transform people into a ghost state invisible to ordinary people. Muggles cannot see it while in ghost state. After falling down, after confirming that no one was around, Luo Lin released the magic on himself. Until you enter the Leaky Cauldron. Only then did Black and Longbottom appear. At this time, the Leaky Cauldron seemed a little deserted. Obviously, this time is not the peak time for visitors to the Leaky Cauldron. But at this time, most of the people staying at the Leaky Cauldron were regular customers. Most of them recognized Luo Lin at first sight. Because I like to gossip in the pub, information about Rolin. These people can be said to know everything. They knew that Rowling had entered Hogwarts as a professor. So when Luo Lin suddenly appeared, these old drinkers were confused. Aren't you a professor at Hogwarts? Why did it come out again? Is it possible that Hogwarts can be jailbroken like Azkaban? Old Tom also noticed Rolin. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he still greeted Luo Lin with a smile. Good afternoon, Luo Lin. Good afternoon, Old Tom. Luo Lin ignored the surprised looks from the people around him and went directly to the counter. A glass of fruit wine, any flavor will do. It needs to be iced. He ordered a glass of wine. While Old Tom was preparing things for him, he couldn't help but ask, Luo Lin, didn't you go to Hogwarts to be a professor? It's only been a few days. Why are you here in London again? Do you have something to do? He didn't think that Rowling escaped from Hogwarts. After all, Hogwarts is not a prison, but a regular magic school. Even if Luo Lin doesn't want to be a professor there, just resign. There is no need to run away. What's more, if Luo Lin really escaped, the commotion must have been considerable. The Daily Prophet must have reported it a long time ago. There are no rumors about this at all. So old Tom was convinced that it was unlikely that Luo Lin had escaped. But he had another guess in mind. Will Luo Lin be fired? After all, Luo Lin had only been a wizard for a year. He had no systematic contact with the wizard system and had not received a complete wizard education, or a necromancer. Such qualifications are obviously not suitable for being a professor at Hogwarts. Maybe after Dumbledore saw Luo Lin, he felt that Luo Lin was not qualified and directly persuaded him to quit. Think of this. Old Tom made up his mind. If Luo Lin showed hesitation and was unwilling to explain, he quickly changed the subject, so as not to touch Luo Lin's sadness. Luo Lin didn't know that old Tom had so many thoughts, so he just explained naturally, I can't help it. I also want to stay in Hogwarts. It's quite comfortable there. But when I drew lots, I was given the task of delivering admission notices to the newly admitted little wizards, so I had no choice but to return to London. Old Tom was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly realized, you mean you got the courier mission in charge of this area of London? Old Tom is still very familiar with Hogwarts' annual admissions, knowing that Hogwarts would serve as a messenger for a wizarding professor from a Muggle family. Luo Lin nodded. I'm going to the first little wizard's house tomorrow, and I don't know if I can do it well. This sentence is Luo Lin's innermost thoughts. As a person who likes to lie in my comfort zone, whenever I have to do something for the first time, I always feel a little nervous, for fear of not doing it well. And once he doesn't do well, he will immediately retreat into his comfort zone. It's definitely no problem. You just need to introduce Hogwarts and then bring them to me, Old Tom said with a smile. That's right, but instead of bringing them to you, I brought them to Diagon Alley. I won't let them drink at your place. Luo Lin also smiled. You have to pass by me after all. Old Tom knew that Rolin was joking. After the two chatted for a while, Old Tom mentioned another thing. By the way, Luo Lin, my granddaughter is also a student enrolling this year. When she is in school, I hope you can help watch her and prevent her from getting into trouble. Luo Lin was slightly startled. He really didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. Will Old Tom's granddaughter enter school this year? Your granddaughter will enroll in school this year? No problem. I will take care of her if I have the chance. What is your granddaughter's name? With Luo Lin's consent, Old Tom was visibly happy. He didn't really expect Luo Lin to take care of his granddaughter. I just hope that Luo Lin can pay more attention to his granddaughter and not let his granddaughter be treated unfairly or suffer school bullying. It's always good to have a professor you know in school. My granddaughter's name is Hannah. Hannah Abbott. Hear the name. Luo Lin felt a sense of familiarity. Hannah Abbott. Why does it sound familiar? I must have seen or heard this name somewhere. It's unlikely that it happened in this life. It seems that I saw this name when I was watching Harry Potter in my previous life. Rolin is not that familiar with Harry Potter. I've only briefly seen the movie and the original novel. I read the story in general, but have almost forgotten the details. The only characters I can remember are the very important ones. Hannah Abbott is clearly not one of them. But if it can impress him, it means that he has a certain role in Harry Potter. Maybe he is a relatively well-known supporting role? Rolin couldn't remember what this Hannah Abbott had done, but it doesn't matter. Even the most important characters. Luo Lin doesn't care much either. On the contrary, it is Old Tom's granddaughter. Luo Lin will pay more attention to her. I remember, Hannah Abbott. I didn't expect you, Old Tom, to be a member of the pure-blood family. No wonder you had that expression when I saw Abbott last time. Hear what Luo Lin said. Old Tom laughed at himself. We are no longer pure blood. From me to Hannah, we are all mixed blood. As for your undead servant named Ibwa, Old Tom had a look of helplessness on his face. Who knew you would have such a bad taste? I advise you not to let those pure-blood families who think they are holy know the names of your undead servants. Otherwise, they will definitely come to trouble you. Luo Lin smiled and didn't care. Who cares about pure-blood families? When it comes to names, don't you just choose whatever you want? Could it be that if your name is Zhang San, I can't call you Zhang San? Joke. Seeing that he didn't care, Old Tom didn't try to persuade him. But the topic was brought up. His eyes were set on Black and Longbottom. Chapter 29, Part 1. Who are these two? Old Tom would definitely not be able to tell who is who just based on appearance. After all, when Black and Longbottom came to the Leaky Cauldron, they were not the same bodies. As you have seen, this is Black, this is Longbottom. Luo Lin introduced them respectively. Old Tom obviously had no impression of Longbottom, just like Rolin, but he was deeply impressed by Blake. It turns out you are Miss Black, completely different from last time. Yeah. Blake made a cold voice. Miss Black's voice is still so beautiful, it's a pity. Regret flashed in Old Tom's eyes. What he regrets is of course Black's name. Why would a female undead with such a beautiful voice be named Black? Old Tom thought this was Rolin's bad taste. Every undead servant must be given the name of the 28 sacred tribes. Otherwise, Miss Black's name must be better. Maybe call her Miss Lillian? Old Tom thought of the most beautiful girl he met when he was young. Blake's voice is really nice. Rolin acknowledges this. Everyone who heard Blake's voice praised it. But Old Tom must have ignored Longbottom too much. He introduced Longbottom after all, without even saying hello. It seems that Old Tom is an old man who values girls over boys. Luo Lin didn't see anything bad in Old Tom's eyes. So I just say that Old Tom favors girls over boys. Otherwise, we should say that Old Tom is an old pervert. Blake didn't really like being stared at. Old Tom glanced at her a few times, and she couldn't help but hide her body behind Longbottom. Old Tom finally noticed Longbottom, realized his rudeness, and apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Longbottom, I ignored you. It's okay, Mr. Tom. Otherwise, Longbottom is an honest man. He forgave Old Tom just by saying it didn't matter. Old Tom also wanted to lose face, so he couldn't say that Longbottom would feel at ease just by forgiving him. So he asked, I wonder if there is anything Mr. Longbottom needs? After he finished speaking, he realized something was wrong and apologized again. Sorry, I overlooked your identity. He didn't know if the undead could eat or drink, but looking at the appearance of Longbottom's bones, he most likely couldn't. Old Tom turned to look at Luo Lin. Rolin, is there anything I can do for Mr. Longbottom? Luo Lin understood what he meant. Advertisement, I know that if you don't let him do anything, it will make him feel uneasy. So I thought about it. Well, as you can see, Black has his own clothes, but Longbottom doesn't have them yet. Can you give him one? Blake previously had his own clothes customized at Fengya clothing store. It has been replaced at this time. Longbottom was still bare bones. Luo Lin felt that he also needed a piece of clothing, so that he would not be too conspicuous when taken out. As for clothes being expensive, asking Old Tom to buy them is a bit excessive. First of all, only Blake's clothes are expensive. Because it is a custom-made costume, and there are almost no owl costumes, it is a brand new custom-made one. So the price is very expensive. Longbottom was different. Longbottom is a cat. In the Muggle world, cat clothes and dog clothes can actually be bought in those pet stores. The Wizarding world is similar. If you want to buy clothes for your cat, you can go to the Magical Beast store, which sells various items of magical animals, including clothes. This price is much cheaper. Blake's clothes cost more than 10 gold galleons. Longbottom probably only needs 1 silver sickle, or maybe none. Think of this. Luo Lin was stunned for a moment. This seems to show that he also favors girls over boys. Just buy expensive clothes for Black, and Longbottom's clothes cost nothing. It seems a little bad. Longbottom is an honest man. Definitely won't care. But you can't always bully honest people. There are still a lot of undead subsidies issued by the Ministry of Magic. Black certainly can't use it all by himself. Luo Lin decided that most of the remaining undead subsidies should be spent on Longbottom, which was only fair. Regarding Rolin's proposal, Old Tom readily agreed, and he moves very quickly. Find an old acquaintance to look after the store on his behalf. Take Rolin and Blake directly into Diagon Alley. Then came to the Magical Creatures shop. In the Fantastic Beasts shop, he directly selected 2 cat clothes. After making sure it fits, Old Tom bought it directly. In total, it only cost 1 sickle and 7 cats. Finished shopping. Old Tom was anxious to go back and check the store, so he left first. Advertisement Rolin and the others are still in Diagon Alley. Not that Rolin had anything else to do in Diagon Alley, but he was going to another place. Nocturne Alley. Return to Nocturne Alley again with the help of Diagon Alley. Head straight to the Bachenbach store. The main reason for coming here is still for Longbottom. Now that he has decided to spend most of the remaining undead subsidies on Longbottom, then find a way to spend the money. Luo Lin just stared at Longbottom for a long time, and finally thought of a place to spend money. Longbottom's skeleton. It was Blake who put it together in the beginning, and it was relatively imperfect. Later, Longbottom took the bones given to him by Rolin and filled and replaced his own skeleton. After changing it, Longbottom's image is much better than before. At least it can be seen that he was a very cute kitten in life. But there's a little fly in the ointment. Longbottom said that he had 2 leg bones that didn't fit so well, making walking a little uncomfortable. Luo Lin only had those bones, and there really weren't any suitable bones to replace him with, so forget it. Now in London, just in time to go to Knockturn Alley, the Bujin box store has a complete set of features. It allows Longbottom to directly select the appropriate bone. And it's not just the two ill-fitting leg bones. Rolin told Longbottom, as long as there are better bones to replace, he can just take them. Anyway, these fragmentary bones are not that expensive. What's really more expensive is the intact bones. This will also make Longbottom's image more beautiful. It will be easier for the little wizard to accept it when you pick him up. Hear what Luo Lin said. Blake's eyes lit up. She actually had a few bones that she wasn't so satisfied with. So he proposed to replace the bones as well. Luo Lin did not refuse her request. Just let Longbottom choose first. If there is still a lot of undead subsidies left, Blake is also available. Blake was delighted. Although her current image has been perfectly transformed by the power of the soul, but as a woman who doesn't want to become more beautiful, that's all. At the Box store, Black and Longbottom picked the bones for less than half an hour, and both came back with a full load. Chapter 30. This time Mr. Bojin did not dare to trick Luo Lin at all. All the prices given are appropriate prices. There are even a few bones that are on the low side. This made Luo Lin feel a little regretful. He is a man with a moral bottom line. If others do not offend me, I will not offend others. It seems that this time I won't be able to get anything for free from Mr. Bogenbach. All Black and Longbottom's belongings cost a total of 2 gold galleons. After leaving Knockturn Alley, Rolin stopped for a while in the cafe in Diagon Alley, ordered a cup of coffee, sat down and began to think. Next he will complete his mission. According to the notice given to him by Professor McGonagall before leaving, there are a total of 5 young wizards from Muggle families around London who need him to deliver messages and provide guidance. The earliest is tomorrow. The latest is July 20th, which is about 10 days away. And the last person was an acquaintance, or Luo Lin knew her, but she definitely didn't know Luo Lin. That's Hermione Granger. Hermione Granger, a girl born into a family of dentists. My parents are both dentists and muggles. However, his magic power rioted and he became a wizard. Certainly, he was thinking of Hermione specifically because he only knew Hermione among all the little wizards he was going to pick up. Rowling had no idea about Hermione. You must know that Hermione is 12 years old this year, 1 year older than the other little wizards. Her birthday is on September 10th, so she missed the enrollment last year. But he was only 12 years old. For Rolin, 12 years old is a very young child. It was impossible for him to have thoughts about a girl of his age. He is a necromancer, not a pervert. For Rolin, Hermione has nothing special except for being an acquaintance and a member of the protagonist group. So after getting Hermione's notice, I was only slightly surprised, but I quickly put the news behind me and didn't take it to heart. What Luo Lin needs to consider now is whether to go back to Azkaban in the next few days. After all, I lived in Azkaban for nearly a year. He still missed Azkaban, the prisoners inside, the warden, and his cute dementors. He was familiar with each one. It's just about being able to go back to Azkaban. This still needs to be discussed with the Ministry of Magic. After all, he can be regarded as an employee of the Ministry of Magic. The Ministry of Magic is his boss. It is normal for him to ask his boss for instructions on everything. Luo Lin still doesn't know if the Ministry of Magic knows that he has become the messenger to deliver the notice. He must be going to the Ministry of Magic. Mainly I want to ask for last month's salary. The way wages are paid in the UK is divided into weekly wages and monthly wages. Weekly wages are generally paid to temporary workers with lower wages. Employees with relatively high wages like Luo Lin are paid monthly. Therefore, Luo Lin has not received a cent of last month's salary. He would never allow his salary to be owed. He had to go to the Ministry of Magic to get it back. By the way, you can also ask the Ministry of Magic if he needs to go back to Azkaban. Luo Lin is still very confident in his soul manipulation methods. Those dementors shouldn't get out of control. I just don't know if there are any other troubles in Azkaban that he needs to deal with. Otherwise, the Ministry of Magic probably wouldn't let him go to Azkaban. When should I go to the Ministry of Magic? Luo Lin was ready to plan the time. It was a bit late today, and the Ministry of Magic was probably off work when I went there. Tomorrow, I have to go to the home of a little wizard who was born in a Muggle family, and I don't have time. Luo Lin was not willing to delay completing the tasks assigned to him by the school because he went to the Ministry of Magic. Think about it. He decided to wait until Hermione's notice was delivered and complete the process before going to the Ministry of Magic. I happened to go back to Hogwarts directly after going to the Ministry of Magic. Make a decision. Luo Lin swallowed the last sip of coffee in his mouth, paid, and left the cafe. After saying goodbye to old Tom at the leaky cauldron, we took Black and Longbottom to find a hotel nearby to rest. He still had a lot of pounds that he had not spent, so Luo Lin splurged. I bought a lot of delicious-looking things outside. Britain is a food desert. Luo Lin couldn't agree more with this. Since he traveled to England, he has almost never tasted a dish that shocked him. So before entering Azkaban, he cooks most of his meals. The quality is not that high, but it is still edible. At least it is better than fish and chips and countless breads. After entering Azkaban, he rarely cooks, because he gave his craft to an undead servant. The craftsmanship of the undead servants was worse than his at first, but gradually became much better than his. The ingredients that Luo Lin asked the Ministry of Magic to purchase outside every week were all cooked by his undead servants. It can be said that so many years have passed. Luo Lin's stomach is still a Siagwa's stomach, but it's not bad to eat some foreign food occasionally. London is a big city after all. There are most types of meals in the world here. Just don't choose local British food. Basically, the taste is not too bad. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have money. If you don't have money, you have no choice. Come to the hotel. Luo Lin tasted the things one by one and felt that some things were delicious, but some things looked so good that they tasted disgusting. He suddenly missed the food cooked by the undead servant. But looking at Black and Longbottom beside him, Luo Lin still suppressed his heartbeat and gave up the idea of continuing to summon the undead servants. 2 undead servants are enough. In this way, you will inevitably encounter other people's strange eyes. If there are more, it will definitely become more troublesome. Luo Lin hates trouble. Even if it can't cause him any substantial harm, trouble is trouble, and he doesn't want to be exposed to trouble. He kind of wanted to go back to Hogwarts as soon as possible. The food in Hogwarts Great Hall is varied and tastes pretty good. It's all thanks to those house elves in the basement. Wizards know how to enjoy themselves. House elves are very helpful to wizards. Luo Lin originally thought about getting a house elf if he had the chance in the future. But thinking about his many soul servants, he still gave up his idea. For him, soul servants far surpass house elves in terms of loyalty and ability. What's the point of having a house elf in that case? Have that money. It's better to buy some new bodies for the soul servants to make them happy. Finished eating. It was almost nighttime. Luo Lin went to bed on time to rest. Starting from tomorrow, I will send the notice. Chapter 31. The next day, Luo Lin woke up early. Blake brought him some clothes. Longbottom brought the shoes he would wear today. Wake up and take a look. The traces of yesterday's eating in the room have been cleaned up. Luo Lin patted Longbottom's skull with satisfaction. Well done, Mr. Longbottom. The room looks brand new again. Everyone in the hotel should be grateful to you. Longbottom smiled honestly. This is my duty, Master. Blake was a little dissatisfied on the side. Master, why don't you praise me? I've obviously done a lot. For example? Luo Lin looked at her and asked. For example. Blake first raised his voice, then lowered his voice after thinking about it. For example, I also directed Longbottom where to dispose of the garbage. Can't this be regarded as my credit? Yeah. Luo Lin smiled at Blake and said nothing. Blake was also a little confused and did not speak further. After a simple wash, put the daily necessities that you took out yesterday into the space living area. Luo Lin left the hotel. He took out the first notice. Justin Finch Fletchley. Look at the address above. Rolin soon found the home of the little wizard named Justin Finch Fletchley. Looking at the closed door, Luo Lin used his soul power to sense it a little. After confirming that there is someone in the room, he stepped forward and knocked on the door. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, a voice came from inside. Who is it? I am Rolin Razma, professor at Hogwarts. Professor? Hogwarts. The people inside had obviously not heard of Hogwarts' reputation, but I know he is a professor. He opened the door politely. Walking out of it was an elegant lady in her 30s. She looked Luo Lin up and down. After noticing what Luo Lin was wearing, her eyes quickly became alert. But after seeing Luo Lin's appearance, his eyes relaxed a lot. Excuse me, Professor Razma. Why are you here? The woman asked with some confusion. Luo Lin came over to deliver letters to students. Naturally, he was wearing a wizard robe, and it's his Ministry of Magic uniform. To be honest, this uniform is quite nice. But in the eyes of ordinary people, wearing such clothes is obviously a bit strange. No wonder women were wary of him. Mrs. Finley, I'm here to see Mr. Justin Finley. Luo Lin said gently. I heard that he was looking for his son. Mrs. Finley was stunned for a moment, and then she came to her senses. Oh, what do you want from my son? She didn't call her son right away. The main reason was that the identity of the person in front of her was somewhat suspicious, and she had never heard of Hogwarts. Luo Lin calls himself a professor, but he looks too young to convince her directly. Luo Lin had already anticipated this. Mr. Justin Finch Fletchley was admitted to our school, and I'm here to deliver the notice to him. Admission? Mrs. Finley seemed to have thought of something. Her body suddenly trembled, and her voice was a little nervous. Hogwarts? Yes, our school is called Hogwarts, but I have never heard of this school. Where are you from, a public school? Is it from England? Mrs. Finchleary continued to ask, and we don't seem to have gone to your school to register. My son is going to Eton College. Luo Lin waited quietly for him to finish before speaking. Our school is not a public school. We are a magic school. Magic school. Mrs. Finley's eyes widened at this news. It also seemed to confirm a certain guess in her mind. She didn't panic immediately, but judging from her trembling voice, she was still a little panicked. Professor Rasma, I don't understand something. I understand what you are thinking. Madam, can you please let Mr. Justin Finch Fletchley come out? After meeting him, I will give you a detailed explanation of Hogwarts. Luo Lin asked with a smile. Mrs. Finley thought for a moment and agreed. Okay, Professor Rasma, you come in and sit down first and I'll call Justin. She welcomed Luo Lin into the door. Soon he went upstairs and called Justin Finch Fletchley. Apparently Justin had heard about Rolin's identity from his mother. When he saw Luo Lin, his eyes were full of excitement. He couldn't wait to come to Luo Lin. Professor, is what you told my mother true? Can I go to a magic school to learn magic? Mrs. Finley stood behind him, with a slightly worried look in her eyes. Luo Lin nodded, with his palms raised. A light yellow envelope appeared out of thin air in his hand. See this scene. Finrelli mother and son were stunned. Justin became more and more excited and completely believed in Luo Lin's identity. Luo Lin handed the envelope to Justin. Mr. Justin Finch Fletchley, as long as you read this letter, you will probably understand. Justin eagerly reached out and took the envelope. Open a few pages and look at the contents. Soon he read through the contents of the letter, and the more he read, the more excited he became. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where can I go to study? Justin looked at Luo Lin with wide eyes. Luo Lin nodded slightly. This is a notice from Hogwarts. Of course, it is just an invitation, not mandatory. Everything is up to you. You can learn magic if you want to. It doesn't matter if you don't want to. Yes, of course I am willing, Justin said excitedly. Justin, Mrs. Finley suddenly spoke sternly. Justin, you don't know much about magic, do you? You should go to Eton. Mom, I am no longer a child. I can make my own choices. Eton College does not attract me. Hogwarts is where I want to go now. Justin was very insistent. Can. Mrs. Finley's tone softened. But the magical world is not necessarily safe. My child, I am very worried about you. Mom, I believe Hogwarts is not a dangerous place, don't you, Professor Rasma? Justin suddenly threw the question to Luo Lin. Actually, for Luo Lin, he felt that if Justin went to Eton College, maybe it will be a better choice. After all, the magical world is not as beautiful as ordinary people imagine. After finishing magic school, you also need to find a job. And the job opportunities may not be as good as those for students from Eton College. In other words, there is a high probability that they will not be able to catch up with students from Eton College. It is really difficult for ordinary wizards to find a job that suits them. After all, wizards are an extremely niche group. Job opportunities in the wizarding world are few and far between. As for whether Hogwarts is safe or not, in theory, Hogwarts is the safest place in the wizarding world, and basically nothing will happen. But in the past few years when Harry Potter was at school, this was not the case. Chapter 32. Of course, it was impossible for Rolin to persuade Justin with what might happen in the future. As a teacher and professor at Hogwarts, he wants to recruit students to Hogwarts, not drive others away. What's more, as long as it doesn't have too much to do with Harry and the others, basically nothing will happen. Meet Mrs. Finley's gaze. Luo Lin nodded. Mr. Justin Finch Fletchley is right. Our Hogwarts is the world's #1 wizarding school. We have the greatest wizard principal of the current era, and it is naturally one of the safest places in the world. Mrs. Finch Fletchley had not yet spoken. Justin became excited again. The greatest wizard headmaster of the current era? Is the headmaster of the magic school I want to go to so powerful? Of course, Principal Dumbledore is undoubtedly a legendary wizard. All wizards will respect him. You will know when you enter the wizarding world. Rowling began to praise Dumbledore without hesitation. In other words, this can't be called flattery, it's just telling the truth. Seeing Justin's expression becoming more and more determined, Mrs. Finley was a little anxious. She was no longer as strong as before, but looked at Justin pleadingly. Justin, isn't Eton College good? As long as you graduate from there and go to London University, you can step into the upper class and have a good life. Justin only had the magical world in his mind at this time, and he didn't care about the upper class society. Mom, that's not the life I long for. It wasn't before, and it's even less so now. It was just your arrangement. Now I want to enter the magical world, see magical magic, learn magic, and meet the legendary wizard. Mrs. Finley bowed her head. As an ordinary person, she has some curiosity about the magical world. If she had received an invitation to Hogwarts as a child, she would have chosen to go to the magic school without hesitation. But for his own son. But she hopes that Justin can live a stable life. But Justin, you went to a magic school and entered the magic world. Will you come back? Mrs. Finch-Fletchley's whole person revealed a sad mood. Justin really hesitated now. He just wants to stick to his pursuit, but he doesn't want to be separated from his mother forever. So he looked at Luo Lin for help. Professor Rasma, I went to Hogwarts, can I come back? Mrs. Finch-Fletchley had the same look. Luo Lin was a little helpless and said solemnly, Mrs. Finch-Fletchley, Mr. Justin Finch-Fletchley, let me say it again. Our Hogwarts is a school in the wizarding world. I think you should be able to understand what a school is. Students just go there to go to school. What they want to do after school, or what choices they make, are the student's own business. Hogwarts will not force any student to do something he does not want to do. This is our principle. Even if Mr. Justin Finch-Fletchley doesn't want to be a wizard or stay in the magical world in the future, but comes back here, as long as he doesn't violate the laws of the Ministry of Magic, he is allowed. By the way, schools all have holidays, and Hogwarts is no exception. The latest holiday is Christmas, and students can choose whether to go home or not. Hear his words. Justin cheered and looked at Mrs. Finley. Mom, did you hear that? We can come back during the holidays, and I promise you, I will definitely come and spend this Christmas with you. Finglioli sighed and nodded helplessly. You said so, then Justin, I respect your decision. She still respected her son. He was not forced to go to Eton, but judging from her expression at this time, still reluctant. Thinking about it, she still has a lot of prejudices against magic schools deep down in her heart. But what does this have to do with Luo Lin? Luo Lin didn't care. All he needs to do is serve as a messenger to deliver notices to qualified young wizards, then take them to buy the necessary items, and finally tell the young wizards how to get to school. Just get these 3 things done. The rest of it theoretically has nothing to do with him. Certainly, Luo Lin is not such an irresponsible person. If the little wizard has a question he wants to ask, and he knows it, he will answer it truthfully. Mrs. Finley agreed. Justin let out another cheer and almost ran around the room. Fortunately, he knew that Professor Luo Lin was beside him and controlled his behavior. Luo Lin looked at this scene with a smile. It is normal for ordinary people to be so excited when they have the opportunity to see the magical world. So was he then. But what greeted him was not the beautiful magical world he imagined, but an ore sent by the Ministry of Magic. Wait until Justin feels calmer. Luo Lin spoke again. Then I'll start the next process. You must have seen the contents of the letter, as well as the list of books and equipment attached to the letter. Next, I will take you to a special store to buy the things you need. Great. Justin looked extremely impatient. Professor Rasma, I'm ready. Feng Lily obviously thought more comprehensively than Justin. She pulled Justin and then looked at Luo Lin. Professor Rasma, it should cost a lot of money to buy magic items, right? Only then did Justin realize that he seemed to have no money. Luo Lin nodded. To purchase magic items, you need the currency of the magic world. As he spoke, he reached out and took out 3 currencies. This is called gold gallon, this is called silver sico, and this is called copper nat. 1 gold galleon is equivalent to 17 silver sickles, and 1 silver sickle is equivalent to 29 copper nats. Look at the shiny coin in his hand. Justin showed great interest. Mrs. Finley was actually a little worried. But what if we don't have the currency? For families in the non-magical world, banks in the wizarding world allow the use of British pounds to purchase these magic coins. Luo Lin explained, the exchange ratio is 5 pounds to 1 galleons. Of course, it can only be exchanged for a certain amount of galleons, but it is enough for students to study and live. Mrs. Finley breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, Professor Rasma, how many pounds do you think I should give Justin? 5 pounds a galleon doesn't sound like much. For Mrs. Finley's family, it is completely affordable. 200 to 300 is enough. Galleons still have a lot of purchasing power, and after entering Hogwarts, students have nothing to spend money on, especially the new students. Luo Lin did some calculations and gave his answer. Chapter 33. I heard it only costs 200 to 300 pounds. Mrs. Finley was completely relieved. She took out her bag directly from the side, took out 10 50-pound notes, and handed them to Justin. Take it and go shopping with Professor Rasma. Thank you, Mom. Justin hugged Mrs. Finley happily. Professor, let's go. Justin looked at Luo Lin excitedly. Luo Lin nodded and took Justin to the door. Next we have to go to Diagon Alley. In fact, Justin's home is not that far from Diagon Alley. Just take a taxi or take the subway and you'll be there in no time. Today London's subway system is still quite good in the world. After all, London built its first subway in 1860. There is a subway line close to the Leaky Cauldron and it's just a short walk away. But Luo Lin did not choose either of these methods. He is a professor at a magic school. It's too embarrassing to just take students in a taxi or subway. Later Justin entered Hogwarts. Asked students in the same grade. The other students were all operating, but he was traveling entirely in the Muggle way. Wasn't this a slap in the face? So he had already made up his mind. No matter how close it is, unless you walk 2 steps to the Leaky Cauldron. Otherwise, he must let Justin experience what it means to travel in the magical world. Justin also realized this problem at this time. Professor, where are we going? How? By car? If we need to take a car, I can ask my mother to take us there. Luo Lin calmly shook his head. The place we are going to next is called Diagon Alley, which is the largest magical shopping street in London. As for how to get there, look at your feet. Justin lowered his head and looked at his feet in confusion, then was startled and screamed. Professor, what are these bones? Luo Lin twitched the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, the soundproofing spell was applied in advance. Otherwise, if Justin's screams were heard, countless people would definitely watch. But this was also an oversight on his part. I thought Justin would just be surprised, but he didn't expect such a big reaction. It seems that neither wizards nor muggles are very accepting of undead creatures. He quickly explained, "This is one of my soul servants. If you don't understand what a soul servant is, you can understand it as my pet." Luo Lin's words made Justin calm down a little. He calmed down the fear in his heart. Looked carefully at the bones on the ground. Found out it was a cat skeleton. Moreover, this cat skeleton is very white and smooth, and can be said to be as gentle as jade. It's not that scary if you look at it carefully. As a child, Justin has a strong ability to adapt, and his mood quickly changed from fear to curiosity. He began to squat on the ground and looked at Longbottom, while asking Rolin, "Professor, are all wizards' pets so special? It's actually a bone cat?" Luo Lin shook his head. "No, it's just that I'm special. I'm a necromancer, so my pets are undead creatures." Oh, Justin's expression was casual. The main reason is that he has not entered the magical world yet, and does not know what the concept of a necromancer is. Those who don't know are fearless, and naturally they won't react much. He thought that necromancer was just a normal profession among wizards. Luo Lin didn't remind him deliberately. After all, no one would tell others that they represent evil. This can only be understood after Justin enters Hogwarts to study. Justin observed Longbottom for a while. Luo Lin thought it was almost done. "Come on, Mr. Finch-Fletchley. I'm going to take you to Diagon Alley." Okay. Justin reacted, then remembered what Luo Lin had just said. His eyes suddenly opened wide, and he pointed at Longbottom on the ground. "Professor, did you just mean that we should use this cat to go to Diagon Alley?" "Of course, he is my pet, and one of my ways to travel," Luo Lin said with a natural expression. Justin's mouth opened wide. Looking at the not-so-big cat skeleton on the ground, his small eyes filled with confusion. How can such a small cat skeleton be used for travel? Could it be that he stepped on this bone cat? I could see Justin's confusion. Luo Lin pointed to his shoulder. "Just watch what I do, and then do what you want." Justin discovered it then. At some point, a bone bird appeared on Luo Lin's shoulder. This time he was not frightened, but looked at Luo Lin seriously, preparing to learn what he did. "Blake, we're leaving." "Okay, master." Blake's clear and pleasant voice made Justin stunned again. "Is this bone bird a girl?" "No, why can bones still talk?" Justin realized the problem and quickly looked at Longbottom on the ground. When he looked at Longbottom, he could clearly feel Longbottom looking at him too. And after the two looked at each other for a while, Longbottom gave him a smile. "Hello, Mr. Finch-Fletchley." Justin jumped up suddenly and pointed at Longbottom. "You can indeed speak." Luo Lin was helpless on the sidelines. He forgot all about it. Bones speak and are sure to surprise. His name is Longbottom and her name is Black. They both can talk. You can call them Mr. Longbottom and Ms. Black, Rolin explained. Justin gradually calmed down, realized that he had been rude just now, and apologized to Longbottom. I'm sorry, Mr. Longbottom, I overreacted a little. Longbottom was an honest man and shook his head. It doesn't matter, it's normal. Then Justin turned to look at Blake. Hello, Miss Blake. Hello, Mr. Finch Fletchley. Blake answered him in that sweet voice. A smile appeared on Justin's face. Miss Black, your voice is so beautiful. Thank you for the compliment. Blake's tone was calm. Okay, now is not the time for you to chat. It's time to go. Luo Lin spoke, letting Justin focus on him. Rolin then began to demonstrate how to sit on Blake, and then let Blake take him off. Just like this, you just need to sit on Longbottom, and he will protect you and not put you in danger. Luo Lin finished his words. Justin is eager to try. He looked at Longbottom with longing in his eyes. Mr. Longbottom, may I? Of course. Longbottom took the initiative to come to Justin's feet. Justin sat on Longbottom with excitement. Call. The next second, Longbottom took him and flew into the sky. Chapter 34. Soon, Justin came into the air. When I first took off, he couldn't help but feel a little panicked. But after the sky stopped for a while and gradually got used to it, it became calmer. There were even cheers at the end. Awesome. I can fly in the sky too. It's great to learn magic. I want to become a great wizard. He sat on Longbottom. Longbottom immobilized him with soul power. At first, he hugged Longbottom tightly. Later, after I discovered that I would not fall no matter how much I moved, I became even more aggressive, even trying to get up from Longbottom. But this failed. Longbottom's soul power is wrapped around him, so his range of activities is extremely limited, and he can only swing his body left and right. Rolin didn't care what Justin was doing. Let Black and Longbottom set off directly. Both Black and Longbottom knew the location of the leaky cauldron. After Luo Lin directly performed group ghost transformation, they soon crossed over London and arrived near the leaky cauldron. Justin still seemed a little unfinished, but Longbottom and Black were already on the ground. After the group ghosting is lifted, they walked forward on the busy street. Justin looked around curiously. Found very ordinary. Just an ordinary street. There are bookstores, burger restaurants, supermarkets, and movie theaters, and they are no different from the streets near his home. He looked at Luo Lin with some confusion. Don't know why it's here. Can those magic items be bought here? Luo Lin did not explain. Led him across the street to the leaky cauldron. When Justin walked to the door of the bar, suddenly I realized that no one around me seemed to be able to see this bar. He realized that this should be their destination. Luo Lin finally spoke. This is the leaky cauldron. We can go to Diagon Alley through here. Diagon Alley? Justin muttered the term. Then he looked at the leaky cauldron in front of him. This is a little shabby bar. If you don't see the specialness of this bar, Justin probably wouldn't care too much. Luo Lin did not speak further, but walked directly inside. Justin followed him, observing the surroundings. Go into the bar. He felt that the place was shabbier and dirtier. It didn't look like where he imagined the wizard would be at all. But the patrons in the tavern fit his image of a wizard. There were not many people in the tavern at this time. There were several elderly witches drinking. 2 short old men were chatting. There is also a middle-aged man sitting in the corner drinking by himself. Justin discovered, when Luo Lin took him into the bar, the whole bar was quiet. It seemed like everyone in the bar knew Professor Razma, especially the tavern owner who was sitting behind the counterboard. As soon as I saw Professor Razma, he came directly to greet him. Luo Lin, you are here. Do you want to drink some fruit wine? Luo Lin shook his head and pointed to Justin next to him. I'm here to take the students to Diagon Alley. Old Tom finally noticed Razma beside him, and he glanced at Justin. Oh, is this the new student? They look really good. Thanks for the compliment, Justin said slightly shyly. Okay, Old Tom, I won't tell you more. There are still a lot of things to buy. Well, go quickly. Luo Lin then took Justin through the bar and came to the small patio surrounded by walls. Justin was very curious about this place, but the surrounding situation made him a little disappointed. There is nothing here except a trash can and some weeds. Okay, this is the entrance to Diagon Alley. I'll teach you how to get in. After Luo Lin spoke, Justin stared at him intently, wanting to witness the next magical scene. He was not disappointed. Luo Lin stretched out his finger. Count 3 pieces upward from here, and then count 2 pieces sideways inward. That's it. As he spoke, He tapped a brick on the wall 3 times with his fingers. Bricks shake. The hole appears. Justin stared at this scene dumbfounded. He didn't expect that just by knocking on the wall, such an entrance would appear. It's really amazing. Surprise is followed by joy. He finally has access to this magical world. Justin looked at Luo Lin with an impatient look. Luo Lin nodded. Let's go, it's time to go in. Justin cheered and walked along the archway onto the cobblestone street. Welcome to Diagon Alley. Luo Lin expressed his welcome. He could understand Justin's excitement at this time. Entering the magical world for the first time. It's inevitable to get too excited. Justin nodded vigorously. Professor Rasma, is this where we buy things? Yes, this is the largest magic item shopping street in London. If you are short of anything in the future, you can basically buy it here, Luo Lin explained. By the way, you should have brought the list of items, right? After hearing his words, Justin quickly took out a list of necessary supplies from his pocket. It reads, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Uniform, freshmen need 1. 3 sets of plain work clothes, black, 2. A plain pointed hat, black, worn during the day 3. A pair of protective gloves, made of dragon skin or similar materials, 4. A winter cloak, black, silver buckle, please note. All student clothing must have name tags. Textbook, all students are required to prepare the following books. Standard Spells, Elementary, A History of Magic by Miranda Gorshak, The Theory of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot. Other equipment, a magic wand, a large pot, made of tin plate, standard size number 2, a set of glass or crystal vials, a telescope, a brass balance. Students may bring an owl or a cat or a toad. Parents are particularly reminded that first-year students are not allowed to bring their own broomsticks. Justin had already seen all the items on it, but he couldn't help but ask Luo Lin, Professor Rasma, can all the above things be bought here? Of course, look over there. Rolin pointed to a store. Rasma saw the pot placed in front of the store. There is a sign on it. Cauldrons made of copper, brass, pewter, silver, complete models, automatic mixing, and foldable. This is the pot you need, Luo Lin said. Justin's eyes lit up instantly. Then let's go buy it quickly. He said that he was going to walk that way. Luo Lin grabbed him. Don't forget, you don't have any money yet. We have to change it first. Justin reacted. He only has pounds in hand now, and no currency in the magical world. Chapter 35. Professor, shall we go to the bank next? Justin asked. Yes, let's go to Gringotts next, which is the only bank in the wizarding world, Luo Lin answered as he walked. The only bank? Is there only one bank in the wizarding world? Justin was amazed. Rolin shrugged. He actually didn't understand it either. The wizarding world actually let a group of defeated goblins take charge of the wizarding world's economic system. This is obviously unreasonable. But it's also possible that goblins and wizards have developed a de facto interdependence. Gringotts was founded hundreds of years ago. Goblins have taken control of the economy of wizard society and are responsible for creating magical currency. Gringotts became an integral part of the wizarding world. As far as Rolin knows, the Ministry of Magic tried to take control of Gringotts for a while. But in the end, control of Gringotts was completely handed over to the goblin. What happened during this period is unknown. But what is certain is that wizard society is inseparable from Gringotts, which is controlled by goblins. Only Gringotts controlled by goblins can stabilize the economy of the wizarding world. This is a relatively deformed economic system. At least it seemed very awkward to Luo Lin. But since it can run stably for hundreds of years, explain that there are its own rules. Luo Lin has no intention of controlling Gringotts, so it doesn't matter to him who controls Gringotts or whether Gringotts is the only wizard bank. Soon, the two arrived at Gringotts. Gringotts Wizarding Bank is a tall, snow-white marble building. It is also the most conspicuous building in the entire Diagon Alley. At the entrance is a gleaming bronze gate. Standing at the door was a figure wearing a scarlet uniform with gold trim. This is not a person, but a humanoid creature. He is short in stature, has sallow skin and black eyes. The hands and feet are long, but the legs are a little short. He is not tall, but his head is much larger than that of a human being, and has a pointed beard. Saw this strange humanoid creature. Justin became nervous instantly. Professor, what is this? This is the goblin, the controller of Gringotts, Rolin explained. Fairy? Yes, goblins are subhuman creatures with excellent financial talents, so they are responsible for running the wizard bank. Justin seemed to understand, but he was no longer afraid at this time. Curiosity took over again. He looked at the goblin, and the goblin naturally noticed them. When the two entered the door, the goblin didn't pay attention to Justin's somewhat rude look, but bowed politely to the two of them. Enter the first bronze door. A second silver door appeared in front of the two of them. There are some words engraved on the silver door. Come in, stranger. But you have to be careful what happens if you are greedy. Asking blindly and getting something for nothing will be punished severely. So if you want to take a piece of wealth from our underground vault that was never yours, thief, you have been warned. Be careful not to attract treasure, but evil retribution. This is a warning to people who enter Gringotts not to be greedy. Luo Lin didn't pay attention to these words. In his cognition, goblins are the most greedy beings. Their values are completely different from humans. It is believed that the rightful owner of anything is its maker, not the buyer. In other words, anything made by fairies. In the eyes of the goblins, the pocket belongs to them. The wizard pays a fee to buy it, and what he buys is the right to use it, not the ownership. If a wizard bought something they made from a goblin, wait until they die. The goblin thought these things should be returned to them. If you pass it on to your next generation or give it to other wizards, it is considered stealing, and they are very persistent about getting their belongings back. Never give up easily. For this value, Luo Lin couldn't decide whether this was reasonable or unreasonable, but he definitely disagrees. Rolin's thoughts are, what he buys with money is his, and no one can take it away from him. Professor, as the only wizarding bank, Gringotts must be safe, right? Justin couldn't help but ask. Luo Lin nodded. If Hogwarts is the safest place in the wizarding world, then Gringotts is the second safest place. Justin thought thoughtfully. Hogwarts is because of Dumbledore. What is Gringotts because of? I don't know about that. Maybe it's because there is a dragon guarding their vault. Luo Lin answered casually. Evil dragon? Justin suddenly became interested. Wanting to continue questioning, Luo Lin had already entered the second door. He had no choice but to follow. Entering Gringotts, two goblins immediately bowed to them. Take them to a large marble hall. There were over 100 goblins in the room, sitting behind the long counter. There are some differences from banks in the Muggle world, but the difference is not particularly big. Justin was so dazzled. So many goblins at work. Some are checking coins, some are checking gems, and some are writing something in the ledger. What surprised him most was that there were countless doors in the entire large room, and he couldn't even count them. I don't know where these doors lead. Goblins guide visitors to Gringotts through these doors. Luo Lin took Justin directly to a counter. He is a new student enrolling this year and needs to exchange some galleons. Justin took out his 500 pounds. After hearing that pounds were exchanged for galleons, the goblin sitting on the high stool behind the counter was obviously not that enthusiastic. She reached out and took Justin's pound. 500 pounds can be exchanged for 50 galleons. Do you confirm the exchange? The goblin confirmed. Justin nodded quickly. Exchange? Okay. The goblin put away the pounds, counted 50 galleons from a drawer behind the counter, and handed them to Justin. Please confirm the quantity. When Justin saw gallon for the first time, he couldn't wait to count them. 50 pieces, no more, no less. No problem. Good customer. Welcome to visit next time. The goblin's tone was extremely calm. Justin was in high spirits and didn't pay much attention. Luo Lin wouldn't care even more. He is not a petty person. As long as you don't steal his money, he won't be angry at all. Justin took the galleons and counted them happily. Counted over and over again. Luo Lin didn't care about him and just let him out of Gringotts. With money. Next it was time for Justin to do his shopping. There is no shortage of items on the list. And the first stop they want to go to. It's Madame Malkin's robe shop. Chapter 36. Madame Malkin's robe shop. The full name is Lady Malkin's Robe Store. It can basically be regarded as an exclusive cooperative enterprise of Hogwarts. Hogwarts students all have their uniforms made here. The store also sells dress robes and travel capes. This is not the only store selling clothes in Diagon Alley. There are also Tuathon clothing stores and second-hand robe shops. Needless to say, second-hand robe shops sell second-hand clothes. The positioning of Tuathon clothing store is different from Madame Malkin's robe store. This is a high-end store. In addition to buying school uniforms, those pureblood wizards who consider themselves noble will be more inclined to buy clothes in Tuathon clothing stores. When Luo Lin brought Justin here, there was no one in the store. When the short and fat Madame Malkin saw their arrival, a smile suddenly appeared on her face. But after noticing Luo Lin, her smile became slightly stiff. But as a businessman who opens a store, Mrs. Malkin quickly adjusted her mentality and came to the two of them. This is Professor Razma. Welcome to my robe shop. Hello. Luo Lin greeted her. Madame Malkin then turned to Justin. Dear, you are a student who will be enrolling this year. Do you want to buy Hogwarts school uniforms? Justin nodded. Then come in with me quickly. You happen to be the only customer at this time. We will be finished soon. Madame Malkin led the way inside. Justin looked at Luo Lin. After Luo Lin indicated that it was okay, he followed. This was the first time Luo Lin came to Madame Malkin's robe shop. He went inside and took a look. It's no different from a store in the Muggle world. Go into the back hall. It was just Justin. Lady Malkin stood beside him, trying on his clothes. Madame Malkin made Justin stand on the footstool, pulled a robe over him, and pinned it to fit him. The whole process took no more than 10 minutes. Already tried, dear, soon. Justin paid the money and got his own school uniform. This put him in a pretty good mood. When I walked out of the robe shop, I had a smile on my face. Finished buying school uniforms. Luo Lin took Justin to Flourish and Blot's bookstore again. They need to buy textbooks for school here. Flourishes and Blots is not an exquisite bookstore. It looks just as ordinary. The bookshelves here are filled with books, reaching to the ceiling. There are all kinds of books inside. There are books filled with all kinds of strange symbols. There are books with very special materials. There are also extremely large books. There are also some wordless books. While Justin was shopping for textbooks, Luo Lin flipped through a few books at random. Then he found that he couldn't understand most of it. After all, his knowledge of wizards in this world is extremely limited. The level may not be as good as that of a Hogwarts student who is about to graduate. It seems that I still need to study harder in the future. Otherwise, it would be a bit embarrassing if you were too ignorant. Luo Lin put the books down after reading them. He has no intention of buying a book. If you want to read these books, there is no need to buy them. There are many more books in the Hogwarts library than this. He is now a professor at Hogwarts. He was allowed to browse even the restricted book section, let alone those ordinary books. He could watch it any time he got back to Hogwarts. No need to spend this wasted money. The textbooks are all fixed. Justin quickly got his textbook. Luo Lin can see it. Justin was tempted to look through it now, but he still held back. Professor, what should we buy next? Rolin thought about what was on the list. There are also pots, glass or crystal vials, a telescope, a brass balance, and of course the most important thing, the magic wand. Well, if you want to have your own pet, you can also choose to buy an owl or a cat or a toad. Justin got even more excited when he heard about wands and pets. But there is also some confusion. Professor, how much do these two things cost? The price of a wand is fixed at 7 galleons. If you want to buy an owl as a pet, it should be 10 galleons. Cats and toads are cheaper. Although Luo Lin had never bought these things, he had already inquired about the prices before coming. I heard that the two together only cost 17 galleons. Justin's eyes lit up when he looked at the remaining gold coins in his hand. Great, then I want to buy an owl. Professor, do wizards have their own owls? Luo Lin nodded. Basically, unless those wizards have no money, they will all own an owl. After all, owls are very useful and can be used to send letters and other things. Hear his words. Justin became more determined. Then I will buy an owl. As he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Luo Lin's shoulder. Blake was standing on Rolin's shoulders. He was a little curious. What is the difference between a bone owl and a real owl? But curiosity is curiosity. Justin really didn't dare to ask, even though he has basically overcome his fear of Black and Longbottom. But looking at the two skulls, I felt a little panicked. In particular, the eyes of the two skulls will emit green light, making people afraid to approach. Well, now let's go to the store just now and buy other things. Put the wand and owl for last. The two of them went all the way to the place where pots were sold. Justin chose a tin-plated pot that looked pleasing to the eye, and also bought a good quality balance, a foldable brass telescope, and a crystal vial. Finished buying these things. Luo Lin took Justin to a pharmacy again. Bought a standard dose of various medicinal powders. This will be used later in class. Walk out of the pungent-smelling pharmacy. Justin needs to buy something. Just the wand and the owl. Okay, let's go to Ollivander's wand store to buy you a wand. There, you can buy the wand that suits you best. Luo Lin said as he walked. Ollivander's wand shop? Is there only one wand shop here? Justin raised his own question. Not just here, but in the entire UK, there is only one wand shop, Ollivander's. All students going to Hogwarts need to buy wands here. Luo Lin's words made Justin's eyes widen. If you buy a wand from him, wouldn't that make him rich? Ha ha ha, it can't be considered getting rich. Luo Lin smiled. After all, the number of wizards is only a small number, and the number of young wizards who enroll every year is even less. A wand only has 7 galleons, so in fact, you can't earn a lot. Of course, as a monopoly business, it will definitely make money. Chapter 37. Ollivander's Wand Shop. A shabby and small shop. When Justin came here, he almost thought that Luo Lin had gone to the wrong place. But the sign at the door indicates that this is Ollivander's Wand Shop. Ollivander has been making exquisite wands since 382 BC. It's just that this golden signboard has peeled off, and it looks shabby no matter how you look at it. Justin looked at Luo Lin doubtfully. Professor, you just said that this place can make a lot of money, but why does it look so shabby? Luo Lin shrugged. I don't know. Maybe this is a craftsman's quirk? He really didn't understand why Ollivander's wand shop was made so small and shabby. Can't you spend some money to decorate it? To be honest, it doesn't cost much to renovate these stores. Not to mention this is a magical world. There are many ways to renovate your store. However, Ollivander's wand shop has always remained like this. Luo Lin can only guess that Ollivander is showing that he is a 1,000-year-old shop. After all, the older and more shabby it is, the longer it appears to have a longer history. Luo Lin does not agree with this business philosophy. But for a monopolistic business, doing so does not seem to have any impact. It may even resonate with those pureblood wizards, thinking that only such a wand shop is a good wand shop. The doubts in Justin's heart could not be solved. He glanced at a solitary wand placed on a purple cushion in the window by the door. I couldn't help but think in my heart, the wand he wants to buy won't be placed like this, right? Is this wand shop really reliable? With this doubt, the two walked into Ollivander's wand shop. Just walked in. They heard the jingling of bells. The sound came from behind. Justin looked curiously at the interior of Ollivander's wand shop. There is nothing extra in the entire wand store except for a bench. There are countless long, narrow cardboard boxes stacked up in the wand shop. Looks like there are at least thousands of them. Those cardboard boxes are like the books in the bookstore, almost reaching the ceiling. Justin always felt a little frightened when he saw this scene. So many wands. When does he have to choose to go? Good morning. Just as Justin was looking around, a soft voice came from behind. Justin was startled. Then a clicking sound was heard. Mr. Ollivander appeared before them. His big eyes looked so bright in the slightly dim store. As soon as I saw him, Justin couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Good morning, sir. Just call me Ollivander. Are you here to buy a wand? New student. I've never seen you before. Ollivander stared at Justin with sharp eyes. Justin nodded. Yes, Mr. Ollivander. Ollivander wanted to say something more, but suddenly he noticed Luo Lin beside him. He came up to Luo Lin and looked at him several times, his eyes full of doubts. Sir, who are you? I don't think I've ever made a wand for you. Are you from another country? Looking at him impolitely, Luo Lin didn't care, but shook his head. No, I am the new professor of Hogwarts, Rolin Razma. I am a little different from ordinary wizards. I don't need a wand, so I haven't come to you to buy a wand. Rolin Razma. Rolin Razma? Ollivander muttered the name. I seem to have heard it somewhere. There are still wizards who don't need a wand? He frowned and kept thinking. Soon it dawned on him. Professor Razma, that necromancer. It turns out to be you. Luo Lin nodded. Ollivander asked again. But it shouldn't be? According to the notes passed down by my ancestors, necromancers also need wands? Luo Lin showed an awkward yet polite smile. I am a necromancer. Unlike ordinary necromancers, I do not need a wand to cast spells, and the wand has no effect on me. His explanation made Ollivander realize that he was being rude. I quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Professor Razma. As a wand maker, I care about every wizard's wand. I'm sorry for the offense I just said. It doesn't matter. Luo Lin waved his hand. Mr. Ollivander should choose the wand for the student first. Ollivander was just a little curious. It wasn't too offensive and I apologized to him. Although he holds some grudges, he doesn't hold even this small amount of grudges. Okay, what is this gentleman's name? Ollivander looked at Justin. Justin replied, Justin Finley, sir. My name is Justin Finley. Mr. Finley, let's get started. Ollivander glanced up and down at Justin and took out a tape measure from his pocket. This is a silver, graduated measuring tape. Luo Lin felt the magic power from above. It should be a magic item. Come, Mr. Finch-Fletchley, open your arms. Justin opened his arms as he was told. By the way, which arm do you use your wand with? Justin couldn't answer Ollivander's question. Are you asking about my dominant hand? Ollivander nodded. Oh, that's the right hand. Good. Looking at Justin, who had already opened his arms, Ollivander began to use a tape measure to measure the size. Measure from the shoulder to the fingers, from the wrist to the elbow, then from the shoulder to the floor, from the knee to the armpit, and finally even the head circumference. Luo Lin watched with great interest. He couldn't understand why the measurement even required head circumference. Does this have anything to do with the wand? Ollivander was very serious, measured meticulously, and introduced while chatting. Every Ollivander's wand contains a powerful magical substance. That's the essence of it. Mr. Finley, Ollivander's wand is made of unicorn hair, phoenix tail feathers, and dragon nerves. Every Ollivander wand is unique, because no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are exactly alike. Of course, if you use wands that belong to other wizards, it will never be as effective as using your own wand. Halfway through, Ollivander had already started walking through the shelves. All remaining measurements were taken with a tape measure. Justin was stunned by this scene. Luo Lin complained in his heart. I let the tape measure do the work, but Ollivander didn't even see the results. What's the point? He felt that the data Ollivander needed were probably only the first few. For example, the length of your arms and the height from your shoulders to the floor. Chapter 38. Just when Luo Lin was complaining in his heart, Ollivander has selected some long boxes and is moving them down the shelves. All right, he finished. The measuring tape that was flying in the air suddenly fell to the ground and rolled up into a ball. Then he came to Justin and took out a magic wand. Mr. Finley, try this one. Made of Hollywood and unicorn tail hair. It's 9.5 inches long and very flexible. You can try waving it. Justin curiously reached out to take the wand and waved it casually. Before he could react, Ollivander took the wand from his hand. Almost try this. It's made of black walnut, phoenix feathers, 9 inches long, very tough. As soon as Justin got it in his hand and before he could wave it, Ollivander took away his wand again. This confused him. But before he could answer the question, another wand was stuffed into his hand. This one will definitely suit you. It's ashwood, has unicorn tail hair, is 8.5 inches long, and has moderate elasticity. Try it now. Justin held the wand and looked at Ollivander carefully. He was afraid that Mr. Ollivander would suddenly snatch the wand away from him again. But this time Ollivander seemed confident and kept gesturing for him to wave. Justin waved the wand in his hand, tentatively. Suddenly I felt some warmth on my fingertips. He raised the wand slightly, and a white light suddenly bloomed from the front of the wand. The white light shone for a moment, illuminating the surrounding area even brighter. Justin was stunned for a moment, but Ollivander's eyes lit up and he clapped his hands. Okay, great, Mr. Finch Fletchley, this is the wand that's best for you. Ashwood, unicorn tail hair, this wand will always stick to its true owner. Never give it to anyone else, otherwise he will lose all power. Justin seemed to understand, but he knew that this wand could not be given away. But he had no intention of giving his wand to anyone else. Thinking of the wonderful feeling just now, Justin couldn't help but wave the wand again. The white light appears again. Gorgeous. Justin was shaken when he saw it, and a smile appeared on his lips unconsciously. Luo Lin watched this scene with interest. I find it really interesting to choose a wand. Do you want to buy a magic wand yourself to play with? After thinking about it, I forgot about it. His current wizard subprofessional level is too low to be of any use. I bought the wand and just put it there. The key is that the magic wands in this world have all kinds of magical properties. If he kept the wand in the storage space, he was afraid that it would undergo unpredictable changes. It's better to wait until he really wants to use the wizard subprofession to buy a wand of his own. Justin loved his wand so much that he kept it in his hand and refused to put it down. After paying Ollivander's 7 gold galleons, Rolin and Justin walked out of Ollivander's wand shop. Justin was still observing his wand and kept mumbling, "This is my wand. I can use magic in the future." Luo Lin could understand his current excitement, but it was almost noon. Luo Lin wanted to have lunch. He had to finish his work as a messenger quickly. Yesterday, he got a recommendation from a hotel tenant that there is a very authentic Chinese restaurant in Ealing, London, but it's only open at noon. He had to get there around 12 o'clock noon. It's already 11 o'clock. Finrayli, it's time to buy an owl next, Luo Lin reminded, drawing Justin's eyes away from the wand. Oh yes, there are owls too. The owl and the wand excited Justin equally. He put away his wand and looked at Luo Lin. Professor, let's go quickly. I can't wait to choose a beautiful owl. Luo Lin nodded and took Justin to the Ela Owl shop on the north side of Diagon Alley. The Ela Owl shop specializes in selling owls and a variety of food and utensils needed by owls. After entering the door, Luo Lin found that it seemed a little dark here. Maybe it's because owls prefer this kind of environment. He looked around. I found a variety of owls inside. Grass owl, brown owl, screech owl, snowy owl, gray forest owl. Luo Lin was dazzled by the sight of these owls. Justin was much more excited than him. Already trotting up to each owl, he began to observe which owl was more in line with his wishes. The clerk at the Ela Owl shop welcomed them, but it was obvious that she also recognized Luo Lin. Her expression was somewhat unnatural. Luo Lin didn't care, but waited for Justin to choose his own owl. Justin seems to have trouble choosing. He stayed in front of the two owls for about 10 minutes. You should be deciding which one to choose. Luo Lin did not rush. Owls are companions that always accompany the wizard, so they must be chosen carefully. Justin thought about it, and finally chose a snowy owl. With Luo Lin's aesthetics, he considers the snowy owl to be the most beautiful of all owls. The head is round and small. The faceplate is not obvious. The eye sockets are large. The body is white. The claws are large, curved, and sharp, and there is an inexplicable cuteness when looking at people. He had seen a snowy owl in the zoo in his previous life. I also thought about raising one, but then I checked. It was discovered that the snowy owl is actually a national second-level protected wild animal. His idea was naturally shattered. In this life, it can be raised legally, but his thoughts have long since faded. Taking care of a live owl is too much trouble. It is more convenient to have undead servants like Black and Longbottom. Not only do you not need to take care of him, you can also work for him every day and help him with work. This is the most perfect pet in Luo Lin's heart. After Justin finished selecting the owl, he paid 10 gold galleons. He stared at the beautiful snow owl in front of him with wide eyes, and infinite joy arose in his heart. This snowy owl looks very energetic. Justin scratched his head and thought for a while, then gave it a name. You will be called Emily from now on. Emily, Emily. After giving the name, Justin became even more excited and kept teasing Emily. Emily, on the other hand, ignored Justin, raising her wings from time to time, looking a little disgusted. Justin didn't mind at all. He even used some of the remaining money to buy Emily a lot of owl nuts. After seeing the nuts, Emily was obviously a lot more friendly, arrogant at first and respectful at the end. It makes people laugh when they think about it. Luo Lin couldn't help but think of this sentence. It seems that this owl is quite spiritual, but it's far behind compared to Blake. Think of this. Rolin couldn't help but touch Blake's skull on his shoulder. I feel like I've won. Chapter 39. Justin finished buying Emily. Luo Lin's mission is completed. He did not stay long in Diagon Alley with Justin. Instead, he took Justin directly out of Diagon Alley. After saying goodbye to old Tom, Rowling asked Longbottom to carry Justin back to his home. Parting is about to happen. Justin was a little reluctant to give up. Luo Lin couldn't wait any longer. There are still 5 minutes until 12 o'clock. He was going to the Chinese restaurant right away. Luo Lin took out a letter from the storage space and handed it to Justin. Here's your ticket to Hogwarts. September 1st, King's Cross Station. Specific information is on the ticket. It will be Station 9 and 3/4 then. You can just go in between Station 9 and Station 10. If you can't find it, just observe the people around you. There will be many wizards riding the Hogwarts Express by then. Train. Justin reached out and took the ticket and put it away carefully. Thank you, Professor Rasma. He bowed to Luo Lin. Luo Lin smiled. This is what I should do, then let's see you again. Finished. Rolin stood over Black. Blake quickly rose into the air and took him away from here. Move away from Justina. Luo Lin didn't stop and asked Blake to take him to the recommended Chinese restaurant. The time is just right. A little past 12 o'clock. He arrived in time for lunch. Finish this meal. Luo Lin was very satisfied. It certainly lives up to its reputation. It tastes great, much better than what he fumbled to make. He decided to eat here at noon every day for the next period of time. Although the price is a bit expensive and you can only have one lunch, it's not often that you have such a satisfying dining experience. There were many dishes on the menu in the restaurant that Luo Lin wanted to try. It's almost mid-July now. Normally, the recruitment period for new students at Hogwarts is before August 1st. That is to say, Luo Lin has to send all the notices before the deadline. Certainly, Luo Lin's last notice was delivered on July 26th. It's a notice for Hermione. After serving as Hermione's messenger, Rowling can choose to return to Hogwarts. This period of time is almost enough for Luo Lin to experience all the dishes on the restaurant menu. Think of this. Luo Lin felt that when he ate at this Chinese restaurant in the next few days, he should order more dishes so that he would not miss certain dishes. Eat and drink enough. Luo Lin began to summarize his first task. From going to Justin's house to being separated from Justin. After this period of experience, he was quite satisfied with his performance. At least there are no questions that cannot be answered completely. All the answers that need to be given have been given. All processes are completed. Justin got what he wanted, and he also had everything he needed for school. It was quite an experience. Luo Lin believes that his experience has greatly increased, and now he will be more proficient in communicating with parents of other students. Sometime afterwards, Luo Lin went to the homes of several other incoming freshmen, brought them notices, and then took them to Diagon Alley. As expected, everyone chooses to go to Hogwarts, especially when he displays magic and 2 magical pets. The little wizards are looking forward to going to Hogwarts. At the same time, I have also achieved my set goals in terms of food these days. Ate more delicious food, not just the recommended Chinese restaurant. Later he found a quite delicious afternoon tea shop. The various cakes there are quite delicious. Rowling became increasingly skilled at being a messenger. On the last day, July 26th, I went to Hermione's house. He seemed quite relaxed. Just finish Hermione's side. Next, he can choose to spend time in Hogwarts directly, or go to the Ministry of Magic first and then return to Hogwarts. Rowling stood on black and arrived at Hermione's house. Since today is a day off, Hermione's parents are not at work at this time. After Rowling knocked on the door, he met Hermione and Hermione's parents. Hermione has brown eyes and thick, fluffy brown hair. The most noticeable thing is naturally her rather conspicuous front teeth. In the confused eyes of Hermione's parents, Luo Lin made it clear why he was here. The eyes of the 2 people changed from curiosity to surprise to surprise. They had strong acceptance ability and accepted it all at once. Hermione looked very excited. She had long realized that she was unusual, but I checked a lot of books and couldn't find the reason. Now we can finally know what's going on, especially after knowing that Luo Lin is a professor. Hermione seemed to have countless questions to ask him, from the situation at Hogwarts, to who will be in the future classmates, to what Hogwarts will teach, what magic is, and so on. Some of these questions Luo Lin could answer, and some he was not sure about, so he could only give a general introduction. In order to prevent Hermione from asking questions that he couldn't answer at all, Rolin chose to change the subject and took Hermione directly to Diagon Alley. As the daughter of a family of dentists, Hermione was not short of money at all. She got a bigger share of the money than Justin did. Naturally, he bought more things than Justin. After exchanging money at Gringotts, Rowling first took Hermione to buy all the items on the list. Includes wand. Hermione's wand is a grapevine wand, 10 3/4 of an inch long. The core of the staff is the heart nerve of the fire dragon. Buy everything on your list. Hermione also chose to buy an owl. Rowling remembered that Hermione didn't seem to buy an owl in the original novel. This should be the change he brings. Hermione's owl is a grass owl, which she named Lewis. She loved her wand and owl, but her favorite thing was the variety of books at Flourish and Blots. In addition to the textbooks on the school list to buy, Hermione also bought a set of books for extracurricular study. Luo Lin has never read many of these books. For freshmen who have just entered school, it is definitely a relatively profound book. Look at Hermione. After buying it, I definitely didn't put it away like other people do, and occasionally look through it pretending to do so. She should study the contents carefully. For a studious student like Hermione, Luo Lin was quite impressed. He always wanted to be a top student in his previous life. It's a pity that in the end, he just became an ordinary person. Better than a bad student, because at least he got into a pretty good university. But compared with geniuses like Hermione and the King of Volume, the gap is really far. No matter in terms of learning attitude, learning talent, or academic performance, they are far inferior. But in this way, he actually became a professor at Hogwarts. I can only say that sometimes fate is really strange. Chapter 40. Take Hermione to buy all the things. Luo Lin didn't have much contact with her. The attitude towards her was no different from that of Justin and several other new students. Finally, after giving the ticket to Hermione, he left directly. Finished being Hermione's messenger, Luo Lin felt relaxed all over. The mission assigned to him at Hogwarts was completed. He can now go back to deal with Professor McGonagall. No student refuses to attend Hogwarts. Naturally, there is no need to use the forgetting curse. Next, he only had to consider whether to go back to Hogwarts first and then go to the Ministry of Magic, or whether to go to the Ministry of Magic first and then go back to Hogwarts. Luo Lin did not hesitate on this point. Why make another trip? Just go to the Ministry of Magic. Rowling had been staying in Azkaban before. I don't go to the Ministry of Magic often, but in terms of familiarity, it is definitely more familiar than Hogwarts. Rowling still has some acquaintances in the Ministry of Magic. These people all met when they went to Azkaban to see him. He stood over Blake. After a while, we arrived at the place where the Ministry of Magic was. After entering the Ministry of Magic, he was quickly recognized. The people at the Ministry of Magic were not surprised by his arrival. It's just a bit unfortunate. Luo Lin did not see the old acquaintances he had seen in Azkaban before. Instead, what I saw were some unfamiliar department heads. But he didn't really care. The person he had met the most in the entire Ministry of Magic was Fudge. Without Fudge, there would really be no difference to him from the others. After saying hello to them, Luo Lin told the purpose of this trip. This time he came to the Ministry of Magic to ask for his salary. He wants to confirm whether his current situation is equivalent to holding 2 jobs and whether he needs to be paid 2 salaries. To his question, the people at the Ministry of Magic were also very happy. I paid last month's salary on the spot. Holding a bag of gold galleons, Luo Lin was very satisfied. As expected of the Ministry of Magic, it is so atmospheric. So he took the initiative to ask if he needed to go to Azkaban to do something. Rejected by the Ministry of Magic. People from the Ministry of Magic said that everything was fine in Azkaban and that he was not needed yet. Luo Lin didn't care about this. Anyway, apart from the luxurious lounge, there was nothing worth remembering about Azkaban. If you can get an extra salary without having to work, why not? After receiving his own salary and the subsidies of the undead servants, Luo Lin was ready to leave. However, he was stopped and given 2 letters and a key. He was confused. I don't have any acquaintances in the magical world. Who will deliver the letter and the key to him? Wait for him to return to the hotel. I opened the envelope and looked at it twice. Luo Lin understood what was going on, but at the same time he was a little confused. The letter was given to him by Dumbledore at the Ministry of Magic. One of them was a letter written to him by Dumbledore. The other is a letter from Dumbledore to Gringotts. As for the key, it is naturally the key to Gringotts' vault. The content of the letter written to him was simple, but what he had to do was not simple at all. The content of the letter was to ask him to wait in London for a few more days. We have to wait until July 31st, the letter read. Hogwarts sent a notice to Harry Potter. But the mysterious book in the school shows. Harry hadn't seen the notice yet. This meant that someone had prevented the notice from being delivered to Harry. All Luo Lin needs to do is observe the situation of Harry's family. If Harry still hasn't read the notice on July 31st, he needed to let Harry see the notice with his own eyes and then let Harry decide whether to come to Hogwarts. Harry is different from other Muggle families, although he also comes from a Muggle family. But Harry's aunt and uncle both knew about the wizarding world, not a Muggle in the traditional sense. So Hogwarts did not arrange for Harry to have a professor as a messenger, but just asked the owl to deliver the letter to him. Now Harry had no chance to see the notice. This requires Hogwarts to take action. Hogwarts respects the wishes of young wizards, but only if they see the notice. Only after reading the notice can you decide whether to go to Hogwarts. Not to mention that this time the target is Harry Potter. The famous Harry Potter. Even an undead wizard like Luo Lin, who had been imprisoned in Azkaban for nearly a year, had heard this name countless times. Dumbledore had high hopes for Harry. Rowling even wondered if Harry Potter was unwilling to come to the wizarding world and become a wizard. Dumbledore will also use various means to get Harry to Hogwarts. After all, Harry's identity is different. He is the boy who lived, the hero who killed Voldemort. Many of Dumbledore's plans required a figure like Harry to carry out. And in this world, there is almost no one who can replace Harry. Rolin is of course somewhat interested in the protagonist Harry. But basically it's just like Hermione. Somewhat curious, but not wanting to have too much contact. To Luo Lin's surprise, this time Dumbledore took the trouble to him. It can't be called a trouble. It can only be said that Luo Lin did not expect that Dumbledore would not let Hagrid be Harry's messenger, but instead let him, a new professor who had just joined Hogwarts, do it. Dumbledore must have his own ideas about this. All Rowling could think was that Dumbledore was using Harry to test him. Let's see if he has any thoughts about Harry, or if he is on the Death Eater side. But how could he, a necromancer who had just awakened for a year, be connected to Voldemort? For deeper reasons. Luo Lin didn't think much. Anyway, Dumbledore is the principal, and if he is given a task, he just does it. It's not like Dumbledore didn't pay him a salary. There's nothing wrong with touching Harry. At this time, Harry was just an ordinary kid. Unlike when I was at Hogwarts in the future, I would basically encounter all kinds of troubles every semester. Rolin really doesn't like trouble. The worst thing he could do was not have more contact with Harry in school from now on. He was a defense against the dark arts professor and didn't have many opportunities to interact with Harry. After all, he is not Quirrell. Voldemort didn't grow on the back of his head either. Except for Harry. Luo Lin was even more surprised that Dumbledore actually asked him to take out the contents of Gringotts' vault, although the letter did not specify what it was. But Luo Lin, who had read the original work, certainly knew that it was the Sorcerer's Stone that Voldemort wanted to get day and night. The Philosopher's Stone is a magical alchemy item, able to convert all metals into gold. It can also be used to make elixirs of life. Luo Lin was not very interested in the elixir of life, but he was quite curious about its ability to convert gold. Chapter 41. The Philosopher's Stone is a magical thing, but in fact, it is not that important to Luo Lin now. Or it can be said that he can't take this magic stone as his own now. He couldn't just give the Philosopher's Stone hair to Dumbledore, not to mention that this thing belongs to Dumbledore. With his character, he can't do anything to steal other people's things. Moreover, he is now working under Dumbledore, and he even misses the leadership. That is really a bit too much. The most important thing is once he takes the magic stone, Dumbledore would 100% suspect him of being Voldemort's associate. After all, besides Voldemort, who else would need this magic stone so much? The key point is that Luo Lin is still a necromancer. This status of being infinitely evil in the magical world means that whenever he does any bad things, he will be associated with black magic. Once Dumbledore, the great wizard, marked him as an associate of the Dark Lord. It can be said that Rowling would become a being that everyone in the wizarding world would want to beat up for a long time to come. Unless Rolin replaces Voldemort as the new Dark Lord and exercises high-pressure rule over the magical world, no one in the magical world dares to resist him. Can Luo Lin do such a thing? Luo Lin thought for a while and shook his head slowly. Unless it's a very extreme situation, he certainly couldn't do such a thing. Or there's another way. That is, he replaced Dumbledore as the greatest wizard. Of course, replacing Fudge as Minister of Magic seems to be able to achieve this goal. By then, wizards in the magical world can't still question him as Voldemort's accomplice, right? Not necessarily. Many wizards in the magical world have abnormal brain circuits. No one knows what they will think. Luo Lin hates trouble and likes to live in his comfort zone, so he will not do things that may bring him big trouble. He just wants to experience the beauty of this world and be a low-key but powerful necromancer. Leave the matter of the Philosopher's Stone behind. Luo Lin decided to find a way to get a magic stone by himself in the future. That way he would never have to be short of money again. Luo Lin is not that greedy about money, but as a necromancer, it is really difficult to move forward without money. Whether it's buying bones, various materials, or many scattered items, it all costs a lot of money. At this time, the subsidy given to him by the Ministry of Magic is barely enough. But Rolin knew it. After he levels up a few more levels and the undead servants evolve further, these subsidies will definitely not be enough. And if all his 28 undead servants were released, just daily body replacement is a huge sum of money. Luo Lin is not poor. The salary offered to him by the Ministry of Magic is not low. But until now, he didn't save much money either. There was only a pile of gold coins in the storage space. He was certainly a rich man compared to the Weasleys. He was a bit poor compared to Harry. Luo Lin's goal is to save at least as much money as Porter's treasury. At that time, he may be able to sleep peacefully and stop thinking about money. But this is not absolute. What if there is inflation in the wizarding world in the future, and even a little money won't do anything? Luo Lin always considers things comprehensively. He felt that he needed a deposit of at least 1 million gold galleons to be safe. Of course, this is just the goal, unless he robbed the Gringotts vault. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have so many gold coins in a short period of time. He still has to slowly accumulate wealth. Thinking about money, Luo Lin couldn't help but think of Hagrid in his mind. In the world of Harry Potter, talk about having money. It has to be Hagrid. The value of just those things in the hut on the edge of Seagreen is hard to estimate. But Hagrid was one of Rowling's few friends at Hogwarts. He would not go so far as to covet his friend's property. Luo Lin firmly believes that making a fortune depends on oneself. Just like the last time I was at the Bourgine box store in Nocturne Alley, didn't I make a fortune? How generous Mr. Borgin is. So many bones were given to him. That is a great good man. It's a pity that Mr. Borgin became a bit stingy this time. After reading the letter, Luo Lin put everything into the storage space. For him, there is nothing wrong with putting anything in the storage space. At least it will not be lost. And since I started throwing things around in the kitchen space, it was very troublesome to find things. Luo Lin divided the storage space. What living area, utility area, food area, exclusive area for undead servants. There are various areas. It looks very complicated, but when storing, you only need a thought, which is extremely convenient. This time, the letter and keys were placed in the most conspicuous place in the utility area to ensure that they could be found as soon as possible. After putting away his things, Luo Lin thought about what to do in the next 2 days. There are still more than 2 days until July 31st. He can't stay in the hotel all the time. It would be a bit too boring. How about going to Azkaban by yourself? Luo Lin suddenly had an idea, and then shook his head. The Ministry of Magic had just paid him his salary and told him that he did not need to go to Azkaban. There was no need for him to violate this requirement. So where else could he go? Always looking for delicious food outside is an option. Another option is to go shopping in Diagon Alley or Nocturne Alley to see if you can find something useful. Equal to these two options. Luo Lin wasn't even that interested. Eating delicious food takes up to more than an hour a day. He doesn't like shopping that much. It's also hard to find what you want. Suddenly, Luo Lin had an idea. He didn't need to find Harry until July 31st. Then why couldn't he go ahead and take out the Philosopher's Stone from the Gringotts vault? After all, Professor Quirrell, who was possessed by Voldemort on July 31st, was going to Gringotts to rob something. What if his arrival caused a butterfly effect and allowed Professor Quirrell to take action in advance and grab the Philosopher's Stone? Wouldn't he become a sinner? Although Luo Lin, who is a sinner and not a sinner, doesn't care that much. But after all, he was entrusted by someone, and he didn't want this to happen unexpectedly. It just so happens that you can use this thing to pass the time. Experience the intricate underground vaults of Gringotts. Think of this. Luo Lin was immediately interested. But taking a look at the sky outside, it was already evening, and it seemed that we could only go again tomorrow. After reading the Defense Against the Dark Arts textbook in the hotel room for a while, Luo Lin fell asleep. A night of silence. When Rolin woke up, Black and Longbottom brought him clothes and shoes respectively. After putting on his clothes and shoes and putting all the things he took out yesterday into the storage space, Luo Lin was about to set off. The location of his hotel is not far from Diagon Alley, so instead of taking Blake this time, he walked directly there. Chapter 42. After breakfast, Luo Lin couldn't wait to come to the Leaky Cauldron bar. The Leaky Cauldron has just opened its doors. Old Tom looked a little lackluster. Why do you look listless? Luo Lin asked with concern. It's not my granddaughter. She received the notice from Hogwarts yesterday and was so excited that she didn't go to bed until late at night. I was so disturbed by her that I couldn't fall asleep. As he spoke, Old Tom yawned. Old Tom's granddaughter? Luo Lin remembered that the girl seemed to be named Hannah Abbott. He had the impression that it was probably a character with a name in the original work. After all, the name seemed familiar to him at the time. Okay, but that's a good thing, isn't it? Rolin shrugged. A smile appeared on Old Tom's face. Of course it's a good thing. Being able to enter Hogwarts has always been what she looks forward to most. By the way, you will be her Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher after she enters school. You will have to pay attention to her then. This is what we agreed. Certainly. Just because of the free drinks he got from Old Tom these days, he was able to help with this. By the way, you should have sent all your notices. Why are you still here and not going back to Hogwarts? Old Tom asked curiously. Luo Lin shook his head. There is no other way. I also want to go back, but the school has assigned me another task, so I can only stay and work for Dumbledore. What an honor it is to be able to work for Dumbledore. I don't know how many people want to work for Dumbledore. Old Tom looked contented. Luo Lin twitched the corner of his mouth. That's because you worship Dumbledore too much. I don't care about his so-called identity as the greatest wizard among legendary wizards. But he didn't refute. A year in the wizarding world. Rowling has a deep understanding of Dumbledore's position in wizarding society in the entire wizarding world. Even the squatting criminals in Azkaban. When Dumbledore was mentioned, he couldn't help but show respect. It can be said about the entire wizarding society. There are 3 people who are most famous. One is Dumbledore, one is Harry Potter, and the other is Voldemort. But few people dare to mention Voldemort's name. Harry Potter is a boy who survived. He has a great reputation, but has no particular influence. Others will respect Harry because of what he did back then. I only respect him because of what happened back then. Dumbledore was different. Dumbledore is undoubtedly the #1 in wizarding society in all aspects, regardless of his strength, status, influence. Not even just in the wizarding world. Those demi-humans also respected Dumbledore. House elves were proud of their ability to serve Dumbledore. This is the influence that Dumbledore has accumulated subtly over the years, and almost no one can surpass it. It can be said that Dumbledore is the veritable minister of the British Ministry of Magic. If Dumbledore were to become minister, there will be countless people forcing Fudge to abdicate. After all, this idiot Fudge has countless owls delivering letters to Dumbledore every day, asking him to come up with ideas. Simply let Dumbledore be the minister directly, and save the middleman from making the difference. Many people have this idea. Rowling didn't have much respect for Dumbledore. In other words, he treats everyone in the world equally. It's just that he still has a certain affection for Dumbledore. At least Rowling went to Hogwarts to meet Dumbledore, and Dumbledore left a good impression on him. He simply did not refute what old Tom said. Okay, I won't chat with you here anymore. I have to go to Diagon Alley to do something. Hearing Luo Lin's words, old Tom raised his eyebrows. Go ahead. Do you want to have something at my place for lunch? Speaking of which, Luo Lin had never had a meal at old Tom's. But Luo Lin still refused. He is going to that Chinese restaurant for the last time today. There are only 3 dishes left, and he can finish all the dishes in that Chinese restaurant. In old Tom's regretful eyes, Luo Lin walked through the front desk, came to the patio, and entered Diagon Alley. He had a clear purpose in coming to Diagon Alley this time, so didn't stop anywhere else. Instead, he went directly to Gringotts, the tallest marble building. Go through the 2 doors and come to the marble hall. A few days ago, Luo Lin had a student from a Muggle family come here almost every day to exchange galleons. Some of the goblins in Gringotts already know Luo Lin. See Luo Lin arriving. Immediately a goblin came to greet him. Good morning, Professor Rasma. Good morning. Luo Lin said hello to the goblin. Professor, why are you here today? I have a letter here written by Professor Dumbledore. He asked me to come here to pick up the item in the underground vault of number 713. Luo Lin took out the letter from the storage space and handed it to the goblin. The goblin read the letter carefully and nodded. Very good. I'll find someone to take you to vault number 713. The goblin returned the letter to Luo Lin and shouted to the side. Grip Hook. Grip Hook is also a goblin. Luo Lin put away the letter and followed Grip Hook out of the hall through one of the countless doors. Grip Hook opened the door for Rolin. What appeared in front of him was a narrow stone corridor. There is a burning fire on the stone gallery wall. The entire stone corridor is illuminated like daylight. It's a steep downhill. Below is a small railway. Luo Lin didn't have time to take a closer look. Grip Hook whistled. A small cart rushed towards Luo Lin. Professor Rasma, please get in the car. The cart stopped in front of the 2 men. Luo Lin looked at the cart in front of him curiously and climbed up. The pull ring also came up, and then the cart began to move forward along the road. The road is extremely winding. Now turn left, now turn right, now turn left, now turn right. Countless winding roads and countless forks. The cart moves on its own. Luo Lin looked at the surrounding scene. Soon they came deeper underground and passed an underground lake. A beautiful sight appeared. The stalactites look from top to bottom, and the stalagmites look from bottom to top. However, Luo Lin didn't look at this scene for long, and the cart set off again. During this period, Luo Lin saw several small doors, which should be various vaults. The cart went deeper and deeper, and finally stopped at a mountain stream. Looking down from above, it was a completely dark scene, which was a little scary. In front of them is underground vault number 713. This is a very special vault. After Luo Lin got out of the car and approached, he found that there was no key to the vault. Stand back, Grip Hook reminded. After Luo Lin retreated, he stretched out his long finger and pointed at the door, knocking a few times. The door actually slowly disappeared. Chapter 43. Luo Lin looked at the disappearing door with some curiosity. Grip Hook on the side was a little proud. Except for the goblins of Gringotts, anyone else who does this will be sucked in by the door, and now they can't get out. Oh, Luo Lin didn't care about this. He was just curious about how the door disappeared. It looks different from the passage in Diagon Alley. It should be the goblin's own magic, right? See, he doesn't care. Grip Hook felt bored and pointed inside. Go in. There should be what you want to take away. Luo Lin walked into this underground vault. After taking a look, I was a little disappointed. There was nothing in the underground vault, only a slightly dirty small bag wrapped in brown paper. This should be the magic stone. Luo Lin didn't hesitate, stepped forward, picked up the small bag, and threw it into the storage space. Saw him walking out empty-handed. Grip Hook was already used to it. These days, all fairies know that Luo Lin should have a storage space of his own. I just don't know if it is a traceless stretching spell or some other magic. Anyway, the goblin doesn't want everyone to have their own storage space like Luo Lin. Then their coffers would be useless. Take things out. Luo Lin can leave. Get on the car again. After a while of galloping, Luo Lin returned to the sun. There is no way to go back into Gringotts through the underground passage, so you can only go outside. However, Luo Lin had no need to return to Gringotts. Just right outside. Luo Lin did not leave Diagon Alley immediately, but went to drink a cup of coffee. The coffee shop in Diagon Alley tastes good, at least better than the wine sold by Old Tom. While drinking coffee, Luo Lin was also thinking about what he should do next. The magic stone has been obtained. Although Dumbledore never told him not to open things in his letter, but he thought it better not to open it. It would be really embarrassing if he opened it because he was really greedy and refused to return it to Dumbledore. Luo Lin didn't think highly of his own conduct. He is just an ordinary necromancer, no different from ordinary people. At most he is a little stronger. Don't study the Philosopher's Stone. There were still 2 days left before we had to go to Harry's place. What are you doing these 2 days? Luo Lin started to get into this problem again. The time soon came to noon. Luo Lin quickly went to the Chinese restaurant to finish the remaining dishes. While eating, Luo Lin suddenly thought of an idea. How about he go to Harry's place in advance to observe Harry's condition? Luo Lin's impression. Harry was having a miserable time leading up to Hogwarts, but he only remembered the specific plot of Harry sleeping in the cupboard and being bullied by his cousin. Other than that, he really didn't remember much, and he didn't know much about it. Rolin has no interest in getting into deep contact with the protagonist Harry, but he was still very interested in passing the time and having fun. He's very mobile. After finishing lunch, Luo Lin took the black airplane to Surrey County. He first came to Privet Drive, only to find that there was no one there. There was only the dismantled door, which was nailed shut with wooden bars. As for where Aunt Harry's family went, Luo Lin had no way of knowing. No way. The owl can only be turned to for help. Soon, with the help of an owl, Rowling found Harry's location. Harry was now at the Kirkworth Railway View Hotel, stayed in room 17. After turning himself into a ghost, Luo Lin walked into the hotel. Also met Harry Potter. It's pretty much the same as described in the novel. Wearing shabby glasses, messy black hair, green eyes, and a lightning scar on his forehead. He is thin and small, does not look very handsome, and looks a bit timid, with a humble temperament that comes from living under others for a long time. Luo Lin couldn't help but shake his head when he saw Harry like this. What a wonderful child. How come you were raised like this? Harry's parents are also heroes in the wizarding world. Voldemort can basically be said to have been solved by them. The two men's sons were abused by harsh relatives. Not only is there psychological abuse, there is also physical abuse. If Harry hadn't been more sunny and cheerful, he might have already suffered from psychological problems at this time. Rowling didn't understand Dumbledore's choice very much. Dumbledore clearly knew how evil these two people were. Certainly, it can also be said that these two people are not vicious to the end. After all, Harry was allowed to go to school, and he was allowed to eat well and grow up healthily. Besides, they have no obligation to raise their nephew. So in the end, it all comes down to Dumbledore. Rolin thought back to the Harry Potter book. If he remembered correctly, Dumbledore's reason was that Harry had a curse placed on him by his mother, which contained Harry's mother's love for him and could prevent Death Eaters from finding him. But the spell had to be around the serum for the spell to work. That sounds reasonable. But you are Dumbledore. He is the greatest wizard in the world, and the most legendary existence in the wizarding world today. Especially the two people who died were your students and made such great contributions to wizard society. Can't they keep their son with them to protect them? Could it be that Harry's mother's spell is more powerful than your legendary wizard? If Rowling were in Dumbledore's shoes, 2 of his students died because of Voldemort, and at the same time they became the heroes who destroyed Voldemort, the Dark Lord. He would definitely choose to take Harry with him, take good care of him, and raise him well, instead of letting him stay in a family destined to be rejected and abused, and endure such suffering. No one is born to suffer. Dumbledore was not qualified to give Harry a choice and make him suffer. Dumbledore wasn't powerless after all. He has enough ability to give Harry a good childhood and train him to become an excellent wizard. But he didn't do it. This is Rowling's most negative impression of Dumbledore. Certainly, Luo Lin is just saying that. He is not Dumbledore. Harry had nothing to do with him. No matter what kind of life Harry leads, it will only make him feel pitiful without any further thoughts. Luo Lin is selfish after all. If he were a Madonna-type figure, maybe seeing Harry's pitiful appearance at this time He would take Harry away directly and let him live a better life for a few days without suffering the abuse from the Dursleys and their son. But he's not. So he will do what Dumbledore arranges. Dumbledore asked him to pick up Harry on the 31st. So he picked up Harry on the 31st. At most, he would go earlier than Hagrid. Anyway, it was Dumbledore who caused everything, not him. Chapter 44. In the hotel, Harry felt very puzzled. This is a very poor hotel, small and shabby, with dim lighting in key areas. He couldn't figure out what Uncle Vernon was doing these days. Ever since I saw the letter sent to him, Uncle Vernon was absolutely crazy. First of all, she refused to show him the letter. Even Dudley couldn't do it if he wanted to. Later, he was kind enough to let him move out of the storage room and live in a normal bedroom. The most important thing was that the bedroom belonged to Dudley. Even though Dudley was hysterical, he couldn't get the bedroom back. But the messenger didn't stop, still sending him letters. Uncle Vernon went crazy after seeing those letters. Not only did they nail the mailbox in the house, but they also used wooden boards to nail all the cracks in the front and back doors. No one can get out. However, it still failed to stop the arrival of the letter. The key is that there are more and more letters. 1 letter, 3 seals, 12 letters, 24 letters, 30 or 40 letters. Too many to look at. Even so, Uncle Vernon still insisted on not letting him read the letters. This made Harry more and more curious. Then they moved away. I moved to this place where the sheets were damp and moldy. Uncle Vernon shouted to get rid of them. But who are we leaving behind? Harry was extremely curious. He wanted to know who could be so persistent in writing to him. What is the content of the letter? Too bad Uncle Vernon would never let him see those letters. Harry just lay next to the snoring Dudley, thinking about things, and fell into sleep. The next day, after eating a breakfast that left me with no appetite at all, the hotel proprietress is here. He also brought a letter and claimed that the service desk had received 100 letters, all addressed to Harry Potter. Harry hadn't spoken yet. Uncle Vernon had already followed and got 100 letters, and then destroyed all the letters. That's not all. After leaving the hotel, Uncle Vernon drove the family to a remote place. Keep searching. Even Aunt Petunia was a little scared, but she still couldn't stop Uncle Vernon's strange behavior. Harry couldn't understand it. He thought Uncle Vernon might be crazy. This made him a little worried. Nothing would happen later, right? Uncle Vernon took them first to the center of a forest, then to a field, and then to the center of the suspension bridge and the top floor of the parking lot. However, every time he was in a place like this, he would look around, then shake his head and continue looking for somewhere. No one knew what he was looking for. Dudley thought he was crazy too. By evening, Uncle Vernon actually parked the car at the beach, locked them in the car again, and went out. Stay in small, confined spaces. Harry felt a little helpless and couldn't help but look up out of the window. Then his eyes widened. Why does it seem like there is a person floating in the sky? Did that person step on a bone? When he blinked again, the figure disappeared again. Is it an illusion? Harry was confused. It happened to be raining outside at this time. Raindrops hit the roof of the car, making a crisp sound. Dudley couldn't help crying because he wanted to watch TV. Harry paid no attention to this. He was still thinking about what he had just seen. The scene just now was so clear. A young man wearing a strange robe, with white bones under his feet, was floating in the air. It doesn't look like a scene that hallucinations can produce at all, but it disappeared too quickly. Harry couldn't react at all. After that, no matter how much I looked, I couldn't see that person. It made him feel like he was hallucinating again. Harry fell into a tangled state of mind. Luo Lin said it was very dangerous. He just looked at the surrounding scenery from Blake, and for a moment he forgot that the ghosting period had expired. As a result, Harry discovered it. Fortunately, he is very perceptive. After noticing the gaze, he used ghost transformation again and disappeared in front of Harry. If it says it's the 31st, then it's the 31st. Rowling decided to do exactly what Dumbledore had written to him. He couldn't appear in front of Harry just yet, but I'm sure Harry will recognize him when he shows up later. Should we just regard it as an illusion now? Luo Lin looked not far away. A man carrying a slender package came over. It was Uncle Vernon. Luo Lin hated this man, because he is an out-and-out paranoid. Harry is your nephew after all, so what's the use of having a grudge against you to do this? No matter how much you hate the magical world, you still have to understand it a little before expressing your opinion, right? Compared to Uncle Vernon, Aunt Petunia sometimes seemed like a normal person. Of course, neither of them are very normal, but he understood Aunt Petunia's motives. It must be out of jealousy for his sister. My sister went to the magical world, but he could only be a muggle. No matter how he thought about it, He felt very uncomfortable. If you don't know, forget it. The key is to know. As the saying goes, I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the light. Aunt Petunia was one of those people who had seen the light, but not much. So there was jealousy towards his sister and extreme aversion to the magical world. This mentality seems quite normal to Luo Lin. But since he chose to adopt his nephew, it is not normal to abuse him like that. In Luo Lin's opinion, the Dursleys are all pathological. My paranoid dad, my jealous mom, and my doting self formed a perverted family. That's pretty much it. Luo Lin did not pay more attention to the Dursleys. He just paid attention to the time in Harry's schedule. Wait until after 12 o'clock. He was going to find Harry. Uncle Vernon came back from a short distance away because he looked for a suitable place. He drove everyone out of the car and pointed to a huge rock on the sea. There is a faint room on the reef. Take a closer look. It's a shabby room, and it's very small. Uncle Vernon borrowed an old rowboat from an old man and also bought some food. I took the family directly to the opposite reef in a rowing boat. It took several hours. Harry almost fainted from the cold. Sea water and rainwater flowed down his body. Fortunately, we have reached the reef. Uncle Vernon couldn't wait to take them to the cabin. The cabin smelled fishy. The fireplace is wet, and they had nothing to make a fire with. This made Harry, who was shivering from the cold and wanted to feel the warmth, extremely disappointed. Uncle Vernon was very satisfied with it. He distributed the potato chips and bananas he bought to everyone. These things could not fill Harry's stomach. Harry hugged his legs and huddled in a corner. It's not completely dark outside yet. He couldn't help but think of the scene just now. How great would it be if the mysterious man just now could come to save him? Chapter 45. Harry huddled coldly. This lasted until nightfall. The storm is coming. The whole hut shivered. The windows rattled, and the cabin looked like it was about to collapse. Uncle Vernon was even happier. He didn't care about the harsh environment either. Went to bed with Aunt Petunia in the lumpy bed next door. Before that, they made a simple bed for their precious son, using moldy quilts spread on the sofa. Seeing this, Harry could only find a less uncomfortable place, and then got under the moldy quilt so that his body could be warmed up a little. But it's only slightly warmer. The wind was so terrible. The cold is so uncomfortable. What's even worse is that Harry is still hungry and feels extremely uncomfortable. Dudley let out another thunderous snore. It was so noisy that he couldn't sleep at all. As midnight approached, Harry moved closer to Dudley's pulled-down wrist. Look at the watch on your wrist. The luminous dial shows the time. 11:53. 7 minutes to go. Today is over. And tomorrow is July 31st, his birthday. The ticking sound of the watch reminded Harry that he was about to turn 11. But what if you are over 11 years old? Will anyone remember his birthday? Tick-tock. The more time passes, Harry felt his body getting colder. And not only is my body getting colder, but my heart seems to be a little cold as well. He emptied himself. Think back to those letters you wrote to yourself. I don't know what to expect when he returns to Privet Drive again. Can I still see those letters? Will Uncle Vernon always be like these days? Or that they will live in this dilapidated hut from now on? The sleeping conditions here are worse than the cupboards under the stairs. Thinking about it. Only 1 minute left until he turns 11. His eyes were fixed on his watch. Watch the time pass by second. 50 seconds. 49 seconds. 45 seconds. At this moment, the figure wearing strange clothes suddenly appeared in Harry's mind. Who could that person be? And why is there a skeleton under his feet? 30 seconds. 20 seconds. He thought again of what he had experienced over the years. Why did he encounter this? 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Bang. A loud bang suddenly sounded in Harry's ears while he was thinking. The closed door of the hut exploded open. Harry saw a figure that had just flashed through his mind at the door. Is it him? Does he exist for real? Why does he come here? Is he here to find himself? The visitor didn't speak, but just walked inside. What's the noise? Dudley was disturbed and said in a daze. The visitor has already reached the center of the room. Other side. Uncle Vernon rushed in with a gun in his hand. Saw someone coming. Seeing the clothes on the visitor, Uncle Vernon's eyes widened and his mouth opened unconsciously. But he soon turned his gun on the man. Get out of here. You are not welcome here. No one wants to come into contact with you freaks. Get out of here. Harry didn't understand why Uncle Vernon was so excited. He only knew that Uncle Vernon should know the identity of the visitor, otherwise he would not have this reaction. Harry turned his attention to the visitor. I want to see panic in the eyes of strangers. After all, if you were pointed at by a rifle, You may die the next moment. The visitor was unmoved and instead smiled at Harry. His smile completely angered Uncle Vernon. Get out of here right now, or I'm going to shoot you. You're breaking into a private house. Your parents didn't. When Harry saw that Uncle Vernon hadn't finished speaking, the next moment he rolled his eyes, dropped the rifle in his hand, and then knelt on the ground. G his head on the floor. He looked at the person again. The man just extended a finger and tapped Uncle Vernon. Then he continued to look at him with a smile, as if what he had just done was just a small thing. Harry was stunned for a moment and was about to ask about this person's identity. Aunt Petunia also ran out. I saw Uncle Vernon, who was kowtowing and rolling all over the ground, and the man standing in the middle of the room. There was a look of horror in her eyes, and she hurried to Uncle Vernon. Dear, what's wrong with you? Get up quickly. What are you going to do? I won't allow you to do this to Vernon. Faced with Aunt Petunia's questioning, the visitor just chuckled. It seems that you still don't understand the situation clearly. Are you qualified to talk to me like this now? Mrs. Dursley, you don't want your husband to kowtow to death like this, do you? Harry always felt that this sentence was a bit weird, but when he thought about it carefully, it seemed to be okay. Wasn't this a threat to Aunt Petunia? Knowing what he knew about Aunt Petunia would obey. Really? The next moment, Aunt Petunia seemed to have seen the situation clearly, and she suddenly knelt on the ground and hugged Uncle Vernon tightly. I'm sorry, sir. It's our fault. For Harry's sake, can you spare us? Harry couldn't understand it again. Why for his sake? Seeing Harry's confused look, Luo Lin laughed. Of course. It was just a small lesson. As long as Mr. Dursley can understand what he should and shouldn't say, I won't do anything to him. Aunt Petunia quickly promised. Vernon will never talk nonsense. I will cover his mouth. Luo Lin nodded and pointed at Vernon again. Vernon had returned to normal. When Vernon woke up, he was no longer as arrogant as before and huddled up like a frightened mouse. Penny didn't dare to make any move. After all, Luo Lin really dared to take action. She could feel that Luo Lin didn't care about them, whether it was their lives or anything else. It was as if they were worse than dead people in Luo Lin's eyes. If her thoughts were known to Luo Lin will definitely feel that her perception is extremely sharp. In Luo Lin's heart, the Dursleys really weren't as important as the body. Corpses can also be used as casting materials. On the contrary, he cannot kill this family, so they are pure waste. Vernon was terrified. Penny didn't dare to speak either. Luo Lin was about to say something to Harry. Dudley suddenly woke up, looking at Petunia and Vernon, who were kneeling on the ground. Dudley's eyes were so big. Dad, Mom, what are you doing on the ground? Then he noticed Luo Lin and suddenly became a little angry. Who are you? How dare you? He hasn't finished speaking yet. Penny covered her mouth as she rushed over, and then looked at Luo Lin cautiously. Sorry, there's something wrong with his brain. Chapter 46. For Aunt Petunia's words, Luo Lin expressed his understanding. It's okay. If you are sick, remember to see a doctor as soon as possible. A flash of green light flashed in his eyes, and he said with a smile, This is a very kind reminder. I just don't know if Aunt Petunia can understand. Dudley's mouth was tightly covered by Aunt Petunia. She was still very unconvinced, struggling wildly, and even wanted to bite Aunt Petunia's hand. But Mother is always great. She nodded at Luo Lin. While covering Dudley's mouth tightly, he stopped his rude behavior and made him unable to make a sound. Luo Lin looked at Dudley's appearance and shook his head slowly. What a spoiled, stupid pig. He didn't plan to pay attention to this family anymore. Instead, he turned to look at Harry and said his first words to Harry. Happy birthday, Mr. Harry Potter. Harry froze. What's going on? How could the person in front of me know his birthday? This was incredible to Harry, because basically no one will remember his birthday except himself. Even Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon seldom mentioned it. From childhood to adulthood, Harry himself had never had a very formal birthday. At this moment, he suddenly heard someone wishing him a happy birthday. His heart suddenly warmed up. Hello, thank you for your blessing. Who are you? Luo Lin reached out and took out a letter. My name is Rolin Razma, and I am a professor at Hogwarts. I came to see you this time to give you the admission notice from our school. Hogwarts? Harry was very confused when he heard the name. He had never heard of such a school. Sorry, I don't know what Hogwarts is. Can you please introduce it? Also, you are a professor at Hogwarts. Are there all special people like you in Hogwarts? Harry couldn't help but ask. Luo Lin has not answered yet. Uncle Vernon, who was sitting on the ground, suddenly felt courageous for some reason and subconsciously spoke to stop. No, he's not going to Hogwarts. He's going to Stonewall High School. Hear his words. Luo Lin couldn't help but frowned, turned around and stared. A green light flashed in his eyes. Mr. Dursley, do you have the right to speak here? Didn't I warn you just now? Aunt Petunia was about to say something. Uncle Vernon suddenly covered his head and began to roll on the ground, screaming in agony. That way, Dudley was stunned, and his body that was still struggling stopped instantly. He probably understood why his mother wouldn't let him talk. Aunt Petunia had to let go of Dudley, worriedly came to Uncle Vernon, fixed him, and then looked at Lorraine pleadingly. I'm sorry, sir. He was confused and talked nonsense. Please spare him once, please. I promise it will never happen again. Luo Lin raised his eyebrows a little impatiently. Remember, don't anger me again. I'm talking to Mr. Harry Potter. If you weren't Mr. Harry Potter's elders, this would never be such a small punishment. The green light flashed in his eyes again, and Uncle Vernon stopped moving. His whole body was twitching, and he no longer dared to speak or look this way. When Luo Lin was about to turn around, he seemed to remember something and said, By the way, apart from my identity as a Hogwarts professor, I also forgot to introduce my other identity. I am a necromancer, and my main ability is to manipulate corpses, and my magic is completely different from that of ordinary wizards. You can try to complain to the Ministry of Magic, but they will not be able to detect traces of my magic. I also want to tell you that in my eyes, you are worse than a corpse. Don't make me feel dissatisfied again, okay? Aunt Petunia nodded repeatedly. Uncle Vernon was also frightened and nodded subconsciously without speaking. Even Dudley was obediently hiding behind Aunt Petunia at this time, his eyes full of fear. Luo Lin was very satisfied with this scene. This evil family is really disgusting. If they are more honest, they will feel better in their hearts. In fact, what he said was completely true. For Rolin, the body was undoubtedly worth more than the Dursleys. The Dursleys couldn't be killed and used as corpses. Luo Lin turned to look at Harry again. Harry was not frightened by the identity of the necromancer revealed by Rowling, but was quite surprised. Professor Rasma's methods are really powerful. To be able to scare Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia like this. And the annoying Dudley also became well-behaved. Harry had to admit, I felt a little happy in my heart. Mr. Potter, for the first question you just asked, you need to read this notice. Luo Lin reached out and handed the envelope in his hand to Harry. This is a light yellow envelope, written in emerald green ink on the cover. See HUD on the rock on the floor. Mr. Harry Potter accepts. Harry's eyes widened. I didn't expect the information on the envelope to be so complete. He opened the envelope and took out the letter paper inside. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster Albus Dumbledore, recipient of the Order of Merlin First Class, Chief Wizard of the Grand Wizards Association, and President of the International Federation of Magicians, dear Mr. Porter. We are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Attached is a list of required books and equipment. The semester is scheduled to begin on September 1st. We will be waiting for your owl to bring your reply before July 31st. Vice Principal, female, sincerely, Minerva McGonagall. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. See this line of text. Harry's head felt like he'd been hit with a heavy hammer. Magic school. Is that what he imagined it meant? There is also an owl replying. What does this mean? Dumbledore, McGonagall. Who are these two headmasters? Harry's head was filled with countless questions. Excuse me, is the magic school I imagined? Harry asked the first question. Luo Lin nodded, lightly snapped his fingers, and a ball of emerald green flame suddenly appeared on his hand. It's what you think of as magic, and what our school cultivates is what people call wizards. Harry looked at the flame in his hand, and his eyes suddenly lit up. There really is magic, but soon his eyes darkened. Why would the magic school send him a notice? There must be a mistake. How could he be a wizard? He is just an ordinary person. He was beaten by Dudley every day and humiliated by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he really is a wizard, how could such an encounter happen? Harry said with discomfort in his tone. Professor Rasma, you must be mistaken. I cannot be a wizard. Chapter 47. Rowling saw Harry's inferiority complex. And this. Apparently it was brought to him by environment. Tell the truth. Luo Lin had to admire Harry's strength again. If it weren't for Harry's own strong qualities. Take this approach from Dumbledore. Harry is destined to be a coward for the rest of his life. After all, almost no one who has been bullied and domestically abused since childhood can still be a sunny and positive child. Luo Lin looked at Harry with a smile. You are wrong, Mr. Potter. You are a wizard, and you will be a great wizard like your parents in the future. My parents are also wizards. Harry recovered from his grief and was surprised. How could my parents be wizards? He couldn't help but look at Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia. Neither of them dared to look at him. It was obvious that Uncle Vernon wanted to stop Lorraine, but the torture of steel made him understand the current situation. He really didn't dare to speak. Uncle Vernon couldn't help but curse Lorraine in his heart, and at the same time he began to resent Harry's parents. It's all their fault. Otherwise, I can still live a peaceful life and not get involved in these strange things. There was no answer from my aunt and uncle. Harry could only look at Rowling again. Professor Rasma, can you tell me about my parents? Luo Lin nodded. He knew that the Dursleys had fed Harry a lot of lies. For example, they said that Harry's parents died in a car accident. There are many such things. This kept Harry unaware of his situation. Luo Lin didn't go into too much detail, he just gave a general outline. Your parents were both graduates of Hogwarts. They were both excellent wizards at the time. They got married after graduation, but 10 years ago, something happened. There was a powerful black magician in the world at that time, Voldemort, who was called the Dark Lord. He rules the Wizarding Society with strong methods, and he has a lot of powerful wizards under his command. At that time, Voldemort almost took over the world. In the eyes of most wizards, that period of wizarding was dark because you didn't know who to trust and you didn't dare to make friends with others casually. He killed those who opposed him and allowed his men to take power. The only safe place at that time was the school you were going to, Hogwarts. It is rumored that what Voldemort fears most is our principal Dumbledore. At least that was the rumor at the time. Harry listened silently. But until now, he didn't hear that it had anything to do with him. Rolin continued. It was Halloween 10 years ago. Voldemort came to the place where you and your parents lived. You were only 1 year old at the time. Voldemort came to your house and killed your parents and many temporary workers. But your mother is great. Before she died, she left you a curse. It is because of this curse that you survived and became what people call the boy who lived. Moreover, your mother's curse is still there. Destroying Voldemort makes you a hero in the Wizarding Society. So you don't have to feel inferior. You should be proud, because you are the benefactor of most wizards, and they should be grateful to you, and you are destined to become a great wizard. In other words, you are now a famous person in Wizard Society, and they all respect you. Do they respect me? Harry murmured. Then he remembered what Luo Lin said about his parents. His parents died at the hands of Voldemort in order to protect him. But why did Uncle Vernon lie to him that his parents died in a car accident? Think of Uncle Vernon's hysterical behavior during this period. Harry sort of understood. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia would treat him that way. I'm afraid his aunt and uncle didn't just mistreat him like that because they didn't like him. It's possible that his parents were angry with him. This made Harry feel a sense of grievance in his heart. Why did his parents die so early? Why does he have to stay under someone else's roof? Why didn't his aunt and uncle tell him that he was a wizard before? Rowling saw Harry's sadness and confusion. He didn't comfort Harry. He just continued. Mr. Potter, have you made a decision now? Should you go to Hogwarts to study? Harry came back to his senses and looked up at Luo Lin. Hogwarts? School of Magic. Am I really a wizard, and can I learn magic? He still couldn't believe it. Of course, haven't you experienced all kinds of strange things in your daily life? That is proof that you are a wizard, Luo Lin said softly. Strange thing? Harry began to recall past events. Sometimes when being chased by Dudley and the others, he always found a way to prevent them from catching up. After every ridiculous haircut, it quickly returns to its original shape. And the giant python in the zoo before... Wait. Many incredible things flashed through Harry's mind one by one. Harry suddenly realized that he really seemed to be a wizard. He looked directly at Luo Lin. Luo Lin smiled and nodded at him. How about it, Mr. Potter? Do you understand? You are the wizard, and you will become an excellent wizard. But you may have some troubles, such as being too popular in school. Can being popular also be a problem? Harry smiled bitterly and scratched his head. He had never been popular since he was a child and had always been bullied. You'll know then. Luo Lin smiled mysteriously. He knew what kind of uproar the name Harry Potter would cause in the wizarding world. It can be said that in the Wizarding Society, no one does not know about Harry Potter. Those children almost grew up listening to the legend of Harry Potter. The boy who survived is a legend in the wizarding world, even a legend second only to Dumbledore. Harry was still a little confused. Luo Lin no longer wants to stay here. Looking at the Dursleys who were still shivering on the ground, he again kindly reminded, "If you feel sick, remember to go to the hospital." After saying that, he looked at Harry again. "Mr. Potter, let's go. Now." Harry couldn't help but glance at Uncle Vernon, a little surprised. "Of course, you are already a student of Hogwarts. As a professor, how can I let you stay in a place like this?" "Okay." Harry walked towards Rowling hesitantly. The two of them slowly came to the door. There was still a violent storm outside. Looking at this scene, Harry was a little confused at first. How should they leave in the face of such a violent storm? Then he seemed to have thought of something and looked at Luo Lin fiercely. "Professor, why are you not wet at all?" Chapter 48. Heard Harry ask. Luo Lin smiled slightly. "Of course, because I am a wizard. Can a wizard survive a storm without getting wet?" Harry was extremely curious. "Of course, this is magic," Luo Lin said matter-of-factly. "But I don't know how." Harry's tone was slightly lower. Luo Lin looked at Harry and shook his head slightly. "You don't need to know how to do it yet. I'm a professor and I'll help you." "Really? Thank you so much, Professor Razma." Harry couldn't help but look forward to it. What kind of magic will Professor Razma use to lead him through the storm? The next moment, his eyes widened. Because it's on Rolin. Suddenly 2 bones appeared. One of them is the skeleton bird he just saw, and the other seems to be a skeleton cat. "Professor, who are these 2? Harry was not afraid, but full of curiosity. In his opinion, this is the magic that wizards have. There is nothing to be afraid of. Luo Lin could remember his birthday and also helped him teach his aunt, uncle, and Dudley a lesson. In his heart, he was a person with infinite good qualities. Although the necromancer sounds a bit evil, but for Harry, being evil doesn't matter at all. Professor Razma is obviously a good person. "Oh, these are my 2 pets. Her name is Black, and his name is Longbottom." Rowling introduced Black and Longbottom. Before Harry could ask, Black spoke first. "Hello, Mr. Potter. I am Black." Hear this clear and sweet female voice. Harry froze. The skeleton bird in front of me is actually a woman. Longbottom also spoke. "Hello, Mr. Potter. I am Longbottom." Hear his voice. Harry woke up from a dream and quickly apologized to the 2 people. "Sorry, Miss Black, Miss Longbottom. I'm Harry Potter. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you." 2 skeletons greeted Harry. Harry turned his attention to Rowling. "Professor, Miss Black and Mr. Longbottom are your pets. Will I have such pets in the future?" Luo Lin shook his head. Harry was immediately disappointed. He was now interested in Black and Longbottom. This is the magical world he knows, magical and beyond common sense. It's a pity that he can't seem to have such a pet. Undead pets are exclusive to necromancers. If you are a normal wizard, you will also have your own normal pets. Luo Lin added. Harry's eyes lit up and his spirits suddenly lifted. "Can I also have my own pet? Is it also a magical pet?" "Well, from an ordinary person's perspective, it should be a very magical pet." Luo Lin pointed to the envelope held in Harry's hand. "There is another piece of paper in it. You should understand it if you take a look." Harry picked up the light yellow envelope and found that there was indeed an equipment list inside. Looking from top to bottom, he saw the last words. "You can bring owls, cats, and toads." Are these common pets for wizards? Harry couldn't help but think of the previous admission notice. "Professor, is this the owl mentioned in the notice?" Luo Lin nodded. "Yes, actually Blake is also my owl. In Wizarding Society, basically every wizard has his own owl, and the owl can take on the responsibility of delivering letters and express delivery for you." Harry became excited. Every wizard has his own owl. So can I also have an owl as a pet? Of course, this is every wizard's right. Very good, Harry shouted happily, and then his voice became quieter again. "But I have no money, nothing, and I can't afford an owl at all." "Yes, you are very rich," Luo Lin interrupted. Harry was stunned for a moment and pointed to himself. "Am I rich? But I really have no money. I don't have a penny on me. Uncle Vernon will never give me any money." "It doesn't mean Muggle currency, but wizard currency," Luo Lin explained. "Wizard currency? And what does Muggle mean?" Harry is like a problem baby who always asks questions when he encounters them. As the messenger, Luo Lin had the responsibility to explain this clearly to him. Wizards naturally have their own currencies, galleons, nuts, sickles. As for Muggles, they are ordinary people like your aunt and uncle who are not wizards. They are called Muggles by wizards. After listening to Luo Lin's words, Harry was still a little confused, but he had already figured out the basic concepts. but I don't have any wizard's currency. Professor, why do you say I'm rich? Harry couldn't help but ask. A mysterious smile appeared on Luo Lin's face. You will know when we go shopping during the day. Oh, Harry still didn't understand, but he didn't question Rolin's words. Rolin found out now. Being the Riddler seems pretty cool. No wonder Dumbledore always liked to half-talk. He was now looking forward to Harry's expression when he saw the Potter family's vault tomorrow. Okay, I'll tell you the rest during the day. It's already late at night, and I noticed that you are hungry and tired now. Let's go eat something first and then go to bed. Luo Lin said this. Harry's stomach suddenly growled. His face turned red, a little embarrassed. What a troublesome professor. It's okay. You are Harry Potter. If other people know your identity, I'm afraid they will rush to treat you to dinner, and then I won't have a share. Luo Lin said with a smile. Harry knew that Luo Lin was joking, but he was still a little embarrassed. Then, Professor, how are we going to get out? You sit on Longbottom's body. Harry was startled and asked him to sit on Longbottom's body. Looking at the pure white bone cat at his feet, Harry had some doubts. Wouldn't he really collapse it if he sat on it? Harry knew he was light, but the bony cat looked a little more fragile. Don't worry, Longbottom is no ordinary skeleton. He can carry you more than enough. Luo Lin saw his worry and explained. The professor said so Harry naturally chose to obey. So he carefully sat on Longbottom. Then Harry found out. It seemed that he was not sitting on the bones at all, but sitting somewhere suspended on the bones. He lowered his head and looked down. Didn't find any cushions either. It's so weird. Excitement ensues. Is this the magical world? It is a novel experience that he has never experienced before. Are you seated? Then let's go. In Harry's surprised eyes, Rowling jumped on Black, and then Black and Longbottom took off into the air at the same time, flying towards the distance. Chapter 49. Fly in the Sky. Harry was surprised at first. Then there is unparalleled excitement. He found himself flying in the sky sitting on Longbottom, not afraid at all. Instead, I felt like a fish in water. After the excitement, he began to observe Longbottom and Black. Luo Lin was wearing a wizard's robe, standing on Blake's body, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Fluttering clothes? Etc.? Harry suddenly discovered a problem. Isn't it stormy now? Why doesn't he feel wet at all? Harry looked around. He found that the raindrops were bounced away silently just a few centimeters away from him. Harry is also a good boy. If he doesn't know something, he just asks, Mr. Longbottom, please tell me why the rain can't touch me. Longbottom is a pet that can communicate and is as intelligent as ordinary people. Harry felt Longbottom could give him an answer. And indeed it is. Longbottom didn't pause at all, and at the same time he answered Harry's question. This is a special barrier I formed with the power of my soul, which can isolate the storm from the outside world. Soul power? This was the first time Harry heard this thing, but he could probably understand what it meant. But he still had a question. Then why can I feel the wind blowing? You should only be able to feel the breeze, right? That's right. That's because the membrane is a filtering device that filters large molecules and only allows small molecules to pass through. Well, Harry didn't understand it at all. It is really a bit difficult for him, an 11-year-old primary school student, to understand what large molecules are, small molecules are, and filtering is. Longbottom also felt his confusion and changed it into a more understandable statement. The heavy rain cannot penetrate the film, and only a small part of the wind can pass through, so it forms a gentle breeze. Harry barely understood, but it feels even more magical from this. The soul power can be controlled so finely. Isolating the heavy rain, but not the breeze, is really a desirable power. Harry wanted to get to Hogwarts as soon as possible. Only in that place. Only then could he learn these magical methods. If only Rolin knew what he was thinking. You will tell your child that you think too much. Hogwarts also cannot learn the so-called soul power. In the current world, soul power is the power that belongs exclusively to the necromancer. In other words, it is Luo Lin's unique power. As for the so-called souls controlled by others, they are all about the control of spiritual bodies, not the control of soul power, including Voldemort. However, the Horcrux does involve a certain amount of soul power, but it is relatively superficial and far inferior to the Lich's phylactery. Of course, Harry didn't understand this. He now thought that the wizards in Hogwarts were all like Rowling. He completely forgot that Luo Lin had just said that he was a necromancer, which was different from ordinary wizards. Longbottom and Black took Luo Lin and Harry to Luo Lin's hotel in London in less than 20 minutes. This is Harry's first time in such a luxurious hotel. The last place he stayed was called a hotel, which had a dark environment and moldy quilts. Rolin's hotel is not the best in London, but it is a relatively new 4-star hotel. This hotel has just been built not long ago, so everything is up to date at this time, including the latest lighting system, the latest air conditioning system, and the latest massage bathtub. Luo Lin only stayed here once and already liked it. Not to mention it was Harry's first time on such an occasion. He walked into the luxurious hotel timidly. I'm afraid that my muddy shoes will stain this place and then be scolded by others. But he was overthinking all this. When the hotel front desk saw Luo Lin, he immediately recognized him. After all, Luo Lin has been living here for nearly half a month. The whole hotel had a certain influence on him. At this time, I saw that he had brought a little boy over, and I was a little curious. Mr. Razma, is this your son? No, this is my student, Luo Lin explained with a smile. Student, so you are still a professor? The front desk was a little surprised. Luo Lin nodded. The expression on the front desk became a little more respectful. No matter what country you are in, the teaching profession will always be respected to a certain extent. The UK is no exception. The front desk obviously respects teachers. Professor Razma, does this kid want to live with you? Luo Lin shook his head. Give him a separate room, preferably next to me. The front desk made some inquiries and nodded after confirming. No problem, there is an empty room opposite your room. Luo Lin casually took out a stack of pounds. The front desk took the money, took out the room fee, and was about to return the rest to Luo Lin. Luo Lin waved his hand. I'm too lazy to go out in this weather. Could you please ask the chef to prepare 2 delicious dinners for me? I'm a little hungry, although it is already late at night. But this hotel provides food and drinks 24 hours a day. Luo Lin heard that the chefs here work in 3 shifts. The chefs who can adapt to 3 shifts here in the UK are either paid a lot or are foreign immigrants. He had breakfast once in the hotel. Judging from the taste, the chef in this hotel is most likely a Turkish chef. Turkish cuisine is a very famous cuisine in the world. But if there are 3 chefs, maybe the 3 chefs may not all be Turkish chefs, and it depends on what dinner is served. Looking forward to dinner. Luo Lin turned to look at Harry. Let's go. I'll take you to your room first. You can take a shower first. Harry took a look at his clothes. They were torn, old, and very dirty. They were obviously dusty from sleeping on the floor. He couldn't help but blush and nodded sheepishly. But when Harry actually came to his room, still a little unbelievable. Can he actually live in such a luxurious room? So bright, so clean and tidy. Harry could not think of words to praise this castle. That's right, within Harry's field of vision. The standard rooms in this hotel are as big as a castle. The bed in the room alone was several times larger than the cupboard where he would stay. Surely you don't have to curl up to sleep on a bed like this, right? Harry couldn't help but think. Then a feeling of inferiority arose in his heart that was difficult to heal. Can I also stay in a room like this? The professor must have paid a lot of money for this room, right? Otherwise, let's forget it. He thought the carpet in the hall below was quite good, and sleeping there would be more comfortable than sleeping in the cupboard. Chapter 50. Rowling didn't know what Harry was thinking. Harry was stunned when he came in. I thought he was a little surprised. It's normal to be surprised when you see something luxurious for the first time. Luo Lin had such an experience. Back then, he went from a small town to go to college in Shanghai. When I first came to Magic City, I was also shocked by the prosperity of the Magic City. But after I stayed there for a long time, it just felt like that. After experiencing it a few more times, I wouldn't be surprised anymore. Luo Lin patted Harry on the shoulder and said with a smile, "We'll see later. You go take a shower first. We have a big meal to eat later. I wonder what kind of chef will be cooking for us tonight. I'm really looking forward to it." Harry suddenly came back to his senses after being patted, and when he saw the smile on Luo Lin's face, his heart suddenly warmed up. The professor is such a nice guy. She was so gentle to him. Such a good person. If he can't stop asking, the professor will definitely be sad, right? Harry was on the verge of refusing to live here but couldn't say anything, so he could only nod. Okay, then I'm going to take a shower and change my clothes. This wizard robe is a bit uncomfortable to wear. I still prefer my casual clothes. Luo Lin left after saying that. Harry was left standing in the room blankly. He looked around again, looking at this extremely luxurious room in his opinion, and his heart was filled with gratitude. Professor Razma is so sweet. There was even such a room specially prepared for him. He was embarrassed to refuse. But if he accepted it, he really didn't know how to repay Professor Razma. You know, he is penniless now. Penniless? Suddenly an idea flashed in Harry's mind. Wrong. He is not penniless. The professor said that he was rich and very rich. Although Harry didn't know why he was rich or how he got the money, but he was willing to believe Luo Lin's words. And Luo Lin said that he knew it when he was shopping today. Harry now sincerely wished he had money. Because if you have money, he can live here with peace of mind. Just pay back the money to Professor Razma later. Think of this. Harry began to look forward to daylight. Think of daytime. Then he can know why he is rich. With anticipation, Harry started taking a shower. He walked into the bathroom and looked at the clean and luxurious bathroom. A feeling of surprise could not stop rising in my heart. It's unimaginable that even the bathroom is cleaner than the Dursleys, especially such a big bathtub placed next to the wall. The tub was longer than his entire body. It is definitely more comfortable to sleep in than a cupboard. Everything Harry saw now had to be compared to the Dursleys, or compare it with what he has come into contact with before. The more I compare, the more I realize how pitiful my life was before. But thinking about the amount of money Luo Lin had just spent, Harry could still understand Uncle Vernon. Uncle Vernon probably didn't make as much money in a week as the professor just casually took out. He must not be willing to spend at least a week's salary to stay in such a luxurious place for one night. Harry took off his clothes. Start exploring how to use various sprinklers in the bathroom. Fortunately, these nozzles are pretty much the same. There's definitely nothing wrong with letting them out of the water. After being burned twice and iced several times, Harry finally adjusted the water temperature to a suitable temperature. Then start enjoying that comfortable bathtub. But he didn't quite understand. Shouldn't a bathtub be extremely smooth? Why are there so many small holes in this bathtub? It doesn't look like it's damaged, but it looks like a hole was punched intentionally. But Harry didn't think too much. Anyway, as long as the bathtub doesn't leak, it'll be fine. He lay in the bathtub and couldn't help but let out a comfortable cry. Just the right temperature. It completely dispelled the severe cold he had just felt in the cabin. He felt warm all over his body, as if he were in his mother's arms. Harry was completely immersed in the beauty of the bath. However, at some point, he didn't know where he came across. Suddenly he felt like something was touching him. Harry was startled. When I turned around and looked around, I found that there was nothing under the water, but there was a jet of water spraying out. Could it be wizard magic? He cautiously reached out his hand. I felt the impact of the water column above the small hole. He was a little confused at first, but he gradually came to his senses. Could it be that these small holes serve this purpose? Harry was not a timid person. He decided to give it a try. So he lay his body in the bathtub again. Feel the impact of the water column. Gradually, Harry adjusted to the force of the water column. He began to adjust the switch he had just touched. That's all. Harry had so much fun playing in the jacuzzi that he almost lost track of time. Until Luo Lin knocked on the door. Are you ready? It's time to have dinner. Only then did Harry realize that he had wasted time. Get up quickly. Then he discovered a new problem. I don't seem to have a change of clothes. He was a little embarrassed. He glanced at the dirty clothes next to him and his white and clean body that he had just washed and felt a little resistant. Instinctively, he asked Luo Lin for help. Professor, I don't have any clothes to change now. Outside the door, Luo Lin slapped his head fiercely. How could I forget this? He felt that he was really careless and said apologetically, Sorry, I was negligent. I will ask someone to prepare clothes for you. Logically speaking, this is not entirely his fault. But it is impossible for Luo Lin to let a child bear this part of the responsibility. Okay, thank you, Professor. Harry was even more moved. He feels that the professor is simply the best person in the world, and no one treats him better than the professor. Later he will have money. He must repay the professor well. From Luo Lin, Harry felt a long-lost family affection. Not like his father, not like his mother, just like a responsible and gentle elder. Compared to Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia, Harry felt that Rowling was simply an angel sent from heaven to save him. Rolin didn't delay. Immediately called the phone number in the room and asked them to prepare a set of little boy's clothes. The hotel is very efficient. After a while, a standard set of blue shirt and black pants was delivered. Luo Lin handed it to Harry along the crack of the door. Harry finished dressing quickly. I walked out of the hotel room with some embarrassment. Sorry, Professor. The bathtub here is so interesting that it delayed me. Heard him mention the bathtub. Luo Lin's eyes lit up instantly. You like jacuzzis too? Harry didn't understand why the professor had this reaction, so he nodded. Yeah? Great. I said they don't know how to enjoy themselves. The jacuzzi is obviously the most comfortable thing, but they actually like showering. It's simply heretical, Luo Lin said happily.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.